Listo. Hoy no voy a ser gamer. Lo siento, mis amores. Hoy no voy a ser gamer porque mi hija está con mis audífonos gamer. Porque así funciona esto. Así funciona esto de ser papá. No siempre puedes tener lo tuyo. Qué gusto verlas y verlos otro día más de este juicio. Que yo sé, vamos lento, vamos con tiempo. Aunque ya se haga que ganó o no ganó, no importa. Vamos a seguir analizando absolutamente todo. Porque lo padre de esto es el chisme, honestamente. O sea, lo padre de todo esto es justamente el chisme. Es el... Pues funciona con todo esto, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué les digo? Vamos a seguir con esto. Bueno, estoy viendo el calendario como para la siguiente semana, pero bueno, vamos a ir poco a poco. Ya estamos en vivo. Recuerden los likes. Los likes son como adrenalina para este aparato que es YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter y TikTok. Esos likes funcionan muy bien. Entonces, bueno, vamos a seguirle. Tenemos de las 5 a las 7:45. Entonces, tenemos un ratote. Pónganse cómodos, cómodas. Ustedes no tienen que ir al baño porque pueden ir conmigo al baño sin problema. Simplemente no los voy a ver. Ustedes sí me van a ver a mí. Entonces, ya descargamos vejiga. Supongo que ya con esto podré seguirle un ratote más. Y estamos en la hora 4. Nos faltan 4 horas, pero como estamos a 1.25, déjame poner a 1.25, posiblemente vaya mejor. Y pues no, sigue sin closed caption. No puedo poner los subtítulos. Entonces, bueno, vamos a tener que seguir trabajándolo de esa manera. Ya como a la mitad de este programa ya les daré algunos tips, como información que requiero de ustedes, ¿no? Como apoyo para el canal, pero bueno, ahorita vamos a empezar. Ahora sí que primero vamos a juntar a la gente y ya después les pedimos. Justo estuve en una cápsula de YouTube donde nos decían que no nos diera miedo pedirles dinero a nuestros fans. Y yo, pues no me da pena. La verdad es que pues, para hacer esto hay que pagar productos como productos como el Shure y productos como los audífonos. Y pues voy a tener que comprar otros audífonos porque se los llevó mi hija. Pero bueno, vamos a empezar. ¿Qué les parece? Entonces, seguimos en el día lunes, en el juicio. Y ya Johnny, como resumen, Johnny había dicho que para qué diablos se va a cortar el dedo si ese güey es guitarrista, ¿no? ¿Por qué voy a cortar el dedo? Dice, vas muy atrasado en el juicio. Sí, ya sé que vamos atrasados. Yo no voy atrasado, yo perfectamente sé cómo va la onda. Lo que les digo es, vamos a ir analizando poquito a poquito, y eso es lo padre. El análisis es lo padre. Los que se están volviendo miembros del canal de YouTube, de verdad, mil gracias. Es súper importante. Son 9.99 pesos al mes, nada. 10 pesos al mes para ser miembro del canal, es nada. Y con eso, de verdad, apoyan muchísimo al canal. Vamos a empezar. Aquí ya llegó la jueza.
About how your finger got injured.
Aquí.
Mr. Depp, before the break, we were talking about how your finger got injured in Australia. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like
Laigen, muchísimas gracias por el dinero que estás donando. Todas las personas que donen dinero, de verdad, mil gracias.
to pull up Defendants Exhibit 394, please.
Muchas gracias.
Mr. Depp, do you recall Mr. Rottenborn showing you this exhibit during your cross-examination?
Yes, I do.
And can you please explain when, relative to your finger injury, you sent this text message?
That's the day before.
¿Se acuerdan que le dije al inicio, no? Ay, al inicio esta Amber como que se veía así súper fresca, súper controlada emocionalmente. Ya después de 4 horas, Amber ya no está nada fresca, ya no está nada bien emocionalmente. Ya se le empieza a notar que el intento de control emocional que tiene.
Am I correct?
At the bottom, it says, I cut the top of my finger off. What should I do? Except, of course, go to a hospital.
Ok, lo que está diciendo aquí es, esta es la foto que ya le iba a mostrar a otro abogado, y dice que, bueno, pues había cortado el dedo y que él mandó una foto diciendo, me corté el dedo, ¿qué hago?
Australia, exactly. The time difference, sorry. Yes. That's what I said.
And so when, relative to when your finger was injured, did you send this text message, to your best recollection?
This looks like it's at
And in the middle here, it
Dice,
says,
¿cuándo se supone que te tomaste esta foto? Y dice, pues en el momento.
her obsession with herself is far more important. She's so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was acquired mate. What did you mean by that?
Unfortunately, I meant exactly what I said.
Aquí ven que hay un correo, un mensaje de texto donde dice, esta perra haría lo que sea por la fama, ¿no? Y le dice, bueno, ¿qué te referías con esto? Y dice, por desgracia, justamente lo que escribí es lo que yo me refería. Eso es impresionante, ¿no? Él está aceptando que sí habló mal de ella. Y esto te da una sensación de, pues el güey no miente, ¿no? Está diciendo la verdad. Si tú ves la cara de Amber, ¿no? Amber sí está emputada, ¿no? Amber sí está enojada con este caso. Ella sí le molesta que además está diciendo la verdad, le molesta que sí está diciendo eso.
In this text, it seems it had become clear that there were she seemed to take more care and importance in going on auditions, going to the Met Ball or going to any sort of premiere or opening or whatever.
Mira, aquí se ve clarísimo el enojo. Mira cómo el rostro de ella está sumamente enojado, checa. Está apretada la mandíbula, esta parte de la mandíbula está sumamente apretada, la mirada fija, como si fuera un rayo láser, ¿sabes? Y si ves la nariz, está como inflamada, o sea, como que necesita más oxígeno, entonces esta parte de la nariz, justamente los hoyitos de la nariz, están más, se llama flared up, que sería como, están inflamados. Pero sí está muy enojada.
Where she could be
Photographed.
Y esta parte muy, muy arriba, ¿sabes?
Sorry?
I believe he was responding to what he meant by what he wrote in his text message
And
to
then he said
Dr.
I meant exactly what the word said, and now he's going beyond.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Rottenborn.
Sir, if you could just answer the question, Mr. Depp, please.
Sir,
Direct your
sir.
attention just to your attorney, okay?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Como Rottenborn le dijo, está divagando, no está diciendo nada, ¿no? Y le dice, bueno, la juez dice, la siguiente pregunta, y él le dice, gracias a él, la jueza se encabrona con Johnny y le dice, a ver, deja de estar de buscapleito.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn showed you an audio recording where you referenced your finger getting cut off in Australia.
Yo pensaría que Amber estaría feliz, ¿no? Porque le acaban de regañar a Johnny, pero no. Ella sigue enojada.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to play a different portion of that recording that came before the portion that Mr. Rottenborn.
Oiga, las personas que están en YouTube que no saben cómo donar, es súper sencillo. En la parte de hasta abajo, donde está el chat, hay una cosita que es de signo de dinero. Ahí pueden donar ustedes dinero y todo ese dinero ya saben que se va directo a Salud Mental con Causa.
Played. So if we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 343, and we will be playing the portion from at 1 hour, 54 minutes.
Y aquí Johnny se siente mal. Así. Esto que estoy haciendo es como de, madres, sí estuvo mal. No, me regañaron. Oigan, los que me dicen que le suba el volumen, literal está al máximo. Está lo que tiene que estar, no puedo subirle más.
Minutes, 11 seconds to 1 hour, 56 minutes, 10 seconds.
It's early, it's quick, it's so not, you're not interested in not fighting. You are guaranteeing a fight. When you do that, and I've told you this so many times, you guarantee, if you were interested in not fighting, you would be respectful if you needed the space to make, you would be careful not to perpetuate the fight longer by saying, I need a few minutes, and then actually honoring that. How can I trust you that it will be a few minutes when you've done this in the past and disappeared for hours? You know, I got mad at you in Australia about this. I said, baby, I want to trust you. It's hard for me not to try and work it out. If you want to be the person that's like, I need to cool down, help me do that, give that to you. But I can't give it to you if you always let me down and fuck up and forget.
Chequen lo que le dice ella, se están peleando, ¿no? Y entonces de pronto ella le está diciendo a él, es que no puedo confiar en ti, simplemente no puedo confiar en ti, hago las cosas y tú no me permites a mí ayudarte para ayudarte. ¿Sabe? Qué interesante como la parte que yo les digo que es narcisista, yo sigo diciendo que es narcisista. Qué interesante que tiende a usar esta idea de yo hago todo para ayudarte, pero tú no te dejas ayudar. O sea, el culpable siempre eres tú.
because I
And-
gave you a time limit, because I said I'll be back in 3 minutes. So I'm just,
No, it's
if that
different.
happens, if it happens,
It's different. You never.
if it happens, I'm just going to say, look, I need some time. That's it.
Y él está diciendo, es que yo a veces necesito tiempo, ¿sabes? Y entonces es como, dame chance, yo necesito tiempo y tú quieres que las cosas sean a tu manera.
I'm telling you, that will make it worse.
No.
Y yo te digo que eso lo va a hacer peor, le dice Amber. Claro, porque lo que le molesta muchísimo a Amber es justamente el hecho de que él tenga pensamiento propio. O sea, la idea es cómo hago para torturarte, cómo hago para joderte, porque soy narcisista. Y necesito mascotas, no necesito personas que me quieran o que sean de mi nivel. Necesito gente que literal como que me quiera hoy.
I guarantee you, it will.
If you're fucking throwing punches,
I'm not talking about throwing punches. I'm talking about an argument.
right. In arguments, you tend to throw punches.
I'm talking about arguments. I'm not talking about the times when it's like physical.
Yo no sé qué está escribiendo ella, pero está encabronadísima.
I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments.
Yes,
Talking
in our
about
argument.
fights. Earlier and earlier and earlier. Now you split. You take off right away. You don't deal with the issue. You don't deal with the confrontation, and you split. Whether it is, and then you do it for an undetermined amount of time. You do it without actually respecting when you do give me a time. Like say I need a few minutes. You never.
Mr. Depp, whose voices can you hear in that audio recording?
Dice, ¿quién escuchas en este audio?
Miss Hertz and myself.
And there was a mention about Miss Heard getting mad about something in Australia. What did Miss
Dice, hay una parte donde se escucha a Miss Heard diciendo que algo le molesta de Australia.
Heard get mad at you about in Australia?
¿Por qué se enojó?
There were many instances
Hay muchas razones, dice.
where Miss Hertz would get upset, angry, and argumentative and violent in Australia. There were many times.
Quiero que la vean, se está poniendo cada vez más enojada, chequen.
The one that was the day when tip of my finger disappeared.
¿Ve lo que te digo? Ve la cara que pone.
That had to do with a phone
Mira, hasta se está remangando.
call. When she arrived in Australia, she complained that an attorney who was explaining to her
Objection, Your Honor, is hearsay as to what he alleges her attorney was explaining to her. That's clearly
We can
hearsay.
move on, Your
Okay,
Honor.
yes, ma'am.
In the context of this audio recording that we just heard, what to your understanding is Miss Heard referencing when she says you split?
I would excuse myself from the situation. I would try to get away so that nothing escalated. Because if given the chance to allow things to escalate, Ms. Heard would take it to the very extreme, which ended up with my finger being chopped off. So I rather thought it was the best idea to avoid things like that.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you what's been marked as Defendants Exhibit 272. I believe this is another document that you saw during your cross-examination. Do you recognize these text messages?
Yes,
And these were after your detox on the island, is that right?
that's correct.
Now, where it says here, this was the right thing to do to speed up the process, what are you referring to there?
When we were on the island and I was going through the process of detoxing from the opiates, which was a very unpleasant and powerful, painful process. It wasn't working with Miss Heard there. I could not properly.
O sea, cuando estaba yo en la isla desintoxicándome todo, no estaba funcionando con ella.
Detox, as every day was another problem or this or that. So I asked that we leave the island and go back to Los Angeles, and I asked Ms. Heard if she would please allow me to get a bungalow at the Beverly Hills Hotel where she and her friends could go for, I needed 5 days, 6 days.
Ya. Entonces, cuando se regresaron a Australia porque no estaba funcionando su desintoxicación, la manda, le dice, oye, voy a rentar un bungalow ahí en Beverly Hills para que te largues con tus amigas y yo pueda tener 5 o 6 días solo en la casa.
7 days, anything I could get where I could finish the detox
Para poder terminar con el detox.
by myself.
Esto que le está pasando en los ojos, que estás viendo aquí, es una excelente manera de ella de mostrar como que no quiere ver. No, pero está como haciéndose así, como de, ay, justo ahorita la máscara no está funcionando.
Without any unnecessary interruptions or unpleasant interruptions.
¿Vieron? Que es justamente lo que les decía, es algo que no quiere ver.
To which she replied that she would.
Y lo que ahorita en unos comentarios tiene toda la razón. Ya está tan enojada, ya tiene emocionalmente está tan drenada que ya no está pudiendo controlar, nada de lo que hace. Y, ok, Fabi, te estás poniendo que cómo te puedes comunicar conmigo. Literal en mi página, aquí, adriansalama.com, ahí está la información. Les decía, le contesté porque ponen estos chats con como que le viene el texto muy grande, tenía que contestar. Quiero que veas ahorita a Amber, por favor, cómo ya no está nada fresca y está tan enojada que va a empezar a mostrar muchísimo más de micromovimientos.
Felt like I was throwing
No sé si tú alcanzas a ver, pero literal se le está moviendo el labio así.
her out and abandoning her, and after all she had done for me. The fact
¿Vieron?
is, though, no matter what I wrote to her mother and to her, I needed the time because I would have gone straight back to the pills. I would have not been able to detox properly without that time alone. And she reluctantly gave me the time. And I sent her and her friends to Beverly Hills Hotel and a bungalow, and went through the detox by myself in Penthouse 3 for the next 5 or 6 days.
Mr. Depp, last week Mr. Rottenborn showed you a video that was taken of yourself where you're slamming some cabinets. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Le mostraron la foto donde usted estaba golpeando unos gabinetes.
I do.
First of all, where are you in that video?
That's the kitchen at a house that I've on Sweetser that I've lived in since mid-90s.
Es una casa que tengo en Switzer, no sé si no es Switzerland, ¿verdad? No sé dónde, es una de las casas que tiene, donde vivió desde los 90s.
And do you recall what you were upset about in that video?
¿Te acuerdas por qué estabas tan enojado?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I don't recall,
Mira, no recuerdo. Y se rasca el ojo.
I don't know the date of, there's no metadata that I'm aware of for that tape.
Si Amber se enoja un poco más, se le va a romper la mandíbula.
Also,
Está haciendo esto con la mandíbula. No sé si me alcanza a ver, pero... ¿Se ve cómo está apretando?
apparently looking for any metadata is impossible as it is
Your
now
Honor,
owned
beyond the
by...
scope of the
I'll
question.
sustain the objection. You want to ask the question
Mr.
again?
Depp, what do you remember, what, if anything, do you remember being
¿Se han dado cuenta que todas las aguas que toma Amber tienen color? ¿Qué diablos le echa?
upset about that resulted in what was seen in that video?
I can't recall if it was bad news about my mother's health. I can't recall if it was something to do with my former business managers.
Dice, no sé de qué estábamos hablando, no sé si era por mi mamá, no sé si era por mis negocios.
You know, finding out that they'd taken me for a very nasty ride. I don't recall exactly what it was about. What I do know is that it didn't have anything to do with her.
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
Overruled, I'll allow it. It's fine.
There was nothing between us before she entered that room.
O sea, no estaba pasando nada entre nosotros dos cuando ella entró al cuarto, cuando estaba golpeando las cosas.
It was me alone.
Okay. Do you know where Ms. Heard was before she entered the room?
I assumed that she was up in the, she'd gotten out of bed and gotten dressed and come downstairs.
Mr. Depp, earlier today, Mr. Rottenborn played a recording where you can hear Ms. Heard seeming to claim that you put a cigarette out on her. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing that, yes.
I'd like to play you another recording, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 365.
Okay.
And this
¿Y se acuerdan cuando ella pusieron uno donde dijo que según esto le había quemado con un cigarro? Bueno, van a poner otro audio.
is, for the record, an 11-second recording, so we'll be putting in the entire.
All right. Any objection to 365? All right, 365 in evidence.
Couch. 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 You give me one couch. I gave you 3 other couches. 2 couches. What do you want? Please? Please, give me a couch.
What do you want?
Couch.
Couch, right. What do you want?
I want couch.
We don't have to see one.
I want couch.
Couch.
Agreed, please, though. You said you agreed
Couch,
before we
agreed.
started talking. I want to stop fighting.
Have I been fighting?
Yes.
Your Honor, she said this was
Everything you
11
said has
seconds.
been nasty and provoking.
Ok, aquí algo pasó, pero yo no estoy entendiendo qué está pasando, pero hasta el abogado dijo que nada más eran 11 minutos, 11 segundos, de 11 a no sé qué.
Mean-spirited.
Not you.
And no, I'm not saying
it's
that.
45.
You asked.
I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I may have been 45. I may have misremembered.
She
It's,
said
it's
it
a,
was 11 seconds long, and that went way longer.
I apologize, I misremembered.
All right, it's in evidence.
It may help if we ask them to move the...
Dijo que nada más eran 11 segundos, y dice el abogado, bueno, me equivoqué.
media player so we can see it too. We have it on the screen, so.
Okay, it's
Well,
45
that's just
seconds.
probably because we didn't publish it. There you go. Okay. Okay.
Okay, can we play that? Thank you.
Couch. Couch. Couch.
A ver, está diciendo couch, que debe significar sofá, pero no sé por qué está diciendo eso.
You give me one couch. I gave you 3 other couches. 2 couches. What do you want?
You don't
Please?
pay attention to it.
Please, give me a couch.
¿O es un tipo de droga?
What do you want?
Couch.
Couch, right. What do you want?
I want couch.
We don't have to see one.
I want couch.
Couch.
Agreed, please, though. You said you agreed
Couch,
before we
agreed.
started talking. I want to stop fighting.
Have I been fighting?
Yes. Everything you've said has been nasty and provoking and mean-spirited.
Not you.
And no, I'm not saying that. You asked.
O sea, ok, puede ser que le esté diciendo que se quite el sofá o que quiera dormir en el sofá o que se vaya a dormir al sofá, pero lo que dice, todo lo que me has dicho siempre ha sido agresivo, violento y de mal espíritu.
me yours. By the way, you just threw a fucking cigarette on me.
Y además me aventaste un cigarro. Uy, uy, aquí puso una cara bien bonita la señorita. Muchas gracias, Sara. Quiero mostrarles la cara que pone aquí. Justo cuando dice, me lanzaste un cigarro. Chequen. Voy para atrás. Ay. ¿Qué onda?
Mr. Depp.
Espérame.
Provoking and mean-spirited.
Not you.
And no, I'm not saying that. You asked me yours.
Espérame, van a ver algo.
By the way, you just threw a fucking cigarette on me.
Aquí.
Mr. Depp, do you recognize what's
Ah!
in that
Cigarette on me.
Mr. Depp, do you recognize what's in that recording?
Do I recognize what's in the recording?
Yes.
No sé si alcanzan a ver, pero está nerviosa. Amber está... Ahí, esa no era. Era acá. Amber está... Ah, no, se va a ver mi carota. Debo quitarme. Quiero que vean la pluma. Esta pluma. Esta. Aquí. Vean cómo está muy bien mueve la pluma.
Seems pretty clear that she's ordering me to the couch.
Ya, sí le estaba diciendo que se fuera al sofá. Como si fuera un perro, le hablaba. ¡Couch! ¡Couch! ¡Sofá! ¡Vete al sofá!
And I didn't want to go through with any, again, avoiding confrontation, trying to avoid confrontation in any way. I can certainly say that without hesitation, there is no way under the sun that I would flick a cigarette at her or burn.
Ahí está, esta es la cara que les quería mostrar. La hizo en un momento, pero la verdad es que no la caché. Y aquí está otra vez. Mira, esto que ves aquí, si tú tapas nada más un lado de la cara, parece que está sonriendo. Si tapas el otro, parece que no. ¿Por qué? Porque está mostrando que hay un punto como de sonrisa, pero tristeza al mismo tiempo. Pero en el caso de ella es, no, dice, dice Johnny Depp, yo jamás le aventaría un cigarro.
Or burn her with a cigarette. If I flicked ashes and an ash got on her, but she's certainly not
Dice, si cuando quito el cigarro y sale una ceniza y eso la quema, no es que yo quisiera hacer eso.
screaming out in pain as if a cigarette is being put out on her. That's ludicrous.
Do you recall the situation that's reflected in that audio recording?
I believe that's Montreal, Toronto, which was right after the Venice Film Festival. We were at the Toronto Film Festival.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to ask you about a couple text messages from May 22nd, 2016 that Mr. Rottenborn asked you about earlier. And
Ahora van a poner unos de los mensajes de texto que le preguntó el abogado. Yo de verdad no entiendo a veces como para qué regresan a esto, pero bueno. Esta de último del couch está interesante porque te demuestra que ella lo trata como si fuera un perro.
before I do, could you please remind the jury what was going on between you and Ms. Heard on May 22nd, 2016?
Antes de empezar, me gustaría que le dijeras al jurado qué es lo que estaban haciendo ustedes o cómo estaban ustedes en el 2016, en mayo de 2016.
On May 22nd,
Miren otra vez los ojitos de la señora Heard. Justo van a hablar de ese tema y sus ojitos le empiezan a arder. Alguien mándele unas gotitas. Mira, está interesante también esto. Déjame echarle para atrás. Quiero que veas esto.
on May 22nd,
Ahí. Mira. Esto que hace ahorita. Ahorita vas a ver. Ahí está. Es asco. Algo que va a decir ahorita Johnny le da asco a ella.
on May 21st, I hadn't seen her since the 22nd of April, her birthday, which was when I left at 4:30 in the morning. I believe,
Objection, Your Honor. This is cumulative. He's already gone through all this in his direct examination, and she asked him what was happening on May 22nd, and he's getting into what happened on May 21st. We've already been through this.
Yeah.
I believe that he's providing context for where they
I think
were
we
on the
can- we can
22nd,
go to
but
the 22nd.
if you could, Mr. Depp, please explain where you were on the 22nd of May in 2016.
as far as I can remember, on May 22nd, 2016, I was preparing to leave for New York for rehearsals and then a tour with the Hollywood Vampires.
Ok, el 22 de mayo estaba preparándose para para una película de vampiros, creo que hizo.
I was either preparing to leave or I had left.
Could we please pull up Defendants Exhibit 736, please? And do you recall sending this text message to Ms. Heard on May 22nd, 2016 at 6:19 p.m.?
Yes, I do.
What did you mean when you told her nothing I have to say to you should elicit anything but a sense of ease?
It was essentially, for me, I was bringing up what I'd spoken to her about.
Recuerden que cada vez que Johnny se pone muy nervioso, empieza a tartamudear. Cada vez que hay mucha emoción, empieza a tartamudear.
About before, which was a peaceful resolution to the problems, a peaceful resolution in terms of a peaceful and private and quiet.
Él dice, le mandó un mensaje muy bonito porque lo que quería era una resolución rápida entre ella y yo que fuera privada. No es una película de vampiros, se llama Su Banda. Gracias, Daniela. La banda de Johnny. Estaban preparándose para eso.
And calm divorce.
Y un divorcio calmado.
And so that's why I say it shouldn't elicit anything but a sense of ease. Because it was not about, I didn't want to argue. I didn't want anything but to end the marriage in the kindest way possible.
Y sí le creo a este hombre, ¿sabes por qué? Porque tiene una vida de tanta violencia en su vida que... Tiene una vida de tanta violencia en su vida. Ha tenido tanta violencia en su vida que cuando se trata de meterse otra vez en pleitos, una persona como él simplemente es como de, no, gracias, no, hagámoslo de la manera más fácil, rápida, sin broncas, ahora sí que prefiero un mal arreglo que un buen juicio.
All her family, my family.
Y te lo apuesto, que Johnny, antes de este juicio, le dijo a Amber, vamos a arreglarnos por fuera. Y ella dijo, no.
Her, myself, etc.
And what did you mean when you said all my love and profound apologies?
Dice que cuando le mandaste todo mi amor y perdón profundo, ¿qué significaba?
Profound apologies is that it just didn't work. We just could not work. There was no way. And
cuando yo pido disculpas es porque de verdad no podemos trabajar ella y yo juntos.
I had to try to put a peaceful end,
Y quería que todo terminara bien, pacíficamente.
stop to the endless opportunities for these constant arguments. If I didn't put a stop to it, then, I mean, if I didn't try to put a peaceful stop to it, peaceful end to it, then if you don't stop it yourself, it'll stop you. It'll stop you, and you don't know what that could be.
¿Ven cómo le pasa? Así, de verdad está bien difícil lo que le está pasando. Está tartamudeando demasiado porque se da cuenta que no ha funcionado, que simplemente ella quiere una buena pelea. Ahora, yo les decía, no, ya que juntáramos un buen número, ya somos un buen número de personas. Oigan, estos videos, de verdad, les agradezco mucho que haya tantas personas. Qué bueno que les esté gustando esta educación con chisme, ¿no? Porque estamos tratando como de aprender un poquito de comunicación no verbal, de aprender un poquito de reglas sociales y todo este desastre. Y por eso les pido que si estás en YouTube, TikTok o Facebook, si puedes y tienes ese corazón de donar dinero o volverte miembro, de verdad, te lo agradezco muchísimo, porque ese dinero me ayuda a mí para poder no tener pacientes y hacer estos videos para ustedes. Solo si está en tu corazón, ya saben qué es. Si dices, no tengo dinero, pero te quiero ayudar, comparte el video, pon el like y sigan tus comentarios porque de verdad eso me sirve muchísimo. Y de verdad, muchas gracias a cada persona que está aquí.
But it was horrific. And I wanted her out of it, and I wanted out of it. No one deserves to live like that.
Se está quebrando la voz. No sé si estás escuchando. Se le está quebrando la voz a Johnny porque dice, nadie merece vivir de esa manera.
No one deserves to live like that. Not her, not me, not anyone. So
está nada de llorar, ¿eh?
I just wanted a smooth exit for both of us. That's all I was looking for.
Seguro se siente súper frustrado. Bueno, ¿cómo no, verdad?
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn played a clip from an audio recording where Miss Heard told you that you vomit in your sleep a lot. Do you remember that recording?
Yes, I do.
And what's your response to that?
When someone tells you that you vomit, she didn't tell me. I heard it in court. When someone brings up the fact that you vomit in your sleep every night, and, well, at first I think you'd be aware of it.
Dice alguien que te dice que vomitas todas las noches, dice, creo que me daría cuenta, ¿no? Te amaneces con vómito.
And also, I think the first thing that I would do is seek medical attention.
Y si eso me pasara, creo que buscaría apoyo médico.
Didn't exist. I'd never vomited in my sleep every night. There were times when I would get, yes, physically ill from the endless shots that you take when you're unable to take any more.
Y dice, sí, a veces llegué a estar físicamente enfermo de todos los golpes que ella me daba psicológicos. Y sí, claro que puede pasar eso.
And it does affect you physically after a while, so I would have to leave and go and vomit when fights got into these surreal and absurd and horrible places. But it still confounds me as to why she would record that. I don't know why anyone would record that.
Dice, no sé por qué alguien estaría todo el tiempo grabándome.
Mr. Depp, the clip that Mr. Rottenborn played was from Defendants Exhibit 839, and just for the record, this is a portion of a larger recording which is reflected in Plaintiff's Exhibit 342. So with the court's permission, I'd like to play a clip from Plaintiff's Exhibit 342. And the portion I'd like to play is at 19 minutes, 40 seconds to 25 minutes, 25 seconds.
Do we have 342 already in evidence? Or
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
no? So you want to put 342, which is the entire audio in?
Yes, I don't
Evidence.
believe that there's anyone else in this audio recording, Your Honor.
I don't believe I hear this before. Okay, 342, any objection?
As long as there's no one else in the audio recording.
We can confirm afterwards. So if Your Honor would, if it's more comfortable, we can put it in as 342A.
Okay.
Oye, mis amores, estoy viendo que algunas personas me dicen, ay, ¿por qué no pones las fotos? Hay unos canales donde sí ponen las evidencias. Por varias razones. Una, sé que hay familias enteras viendo esto y hay niños y niñas y hay cosas que no quiero obviamente mostrar, ¿no? Como cuando mostraron el dedo de Johnny que estaba asqueroso. Entonces, por cuestiones de mejor así, que este sí se puede mantener family friendly. Y la otra razón es porque a veces cuando pones los canales de otros, ahora sí que otros grupos de YouTube, te quitan, no te dejan hacer por copyright. Este es de los pocos que de verdad podemos usar. Ya estamos hasta abusando, ya tenemos hasta una vez nada más esta pantallota. Y hasta ahorita no nos han dicho nada. Entonces, por eso lo estamos usando así.
And what was let's put 342A, and what's the part that you're going to?
It's 19 minutes, 40 seconds to
Okay.
25 minutes, 25 seconds.
Ah, va largo.
And there's just the two of them, and that's this excerpt. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
All right, that's 342A in evidence, then, thank you.
Okay.
Do you understand why 10 minutes sounds serious?
I don't
Didn't
care.
seem real?
I don't care.
Did you hear what I said?
I don't care. I don't care.
You do.
Plenty of things you've done. Plenty of things you've fucking done. That were absolute fucking lies.
I didn't
I'm not
ever-
even fuck with you about it. So anyway, I'm leaving. So I'll see you in a bit. Yeah?
Is that what matters?
You're lying.
Is this what matters to you, your party?
You're lying, Science.
I never led you. And what we're talking about tonight is what? Who are you?
Esto que escuchas, a veces las personas narcisistas ya saben cómo hablarte, con qué tonitos hablarte para detonar emociones. Si ves, ella empieza a hablar de una manera y él como que no me importa. Y ahorita hizo otro que quiero que escuches. Escucha cómo cambia el tono, escucha.
What?
Aquí está diciendo normal, no what. Escucha cómo cambia el tono.
Who are you?
Ese, who are you? Aquí, no lo sé, posiblemente Johnny pierda la cabeza.
Why? Why are you doing this?
Leaving. Leave back.
Why? What is it that is so important always to run away to? Why?
It's irrelevant. Yeah. I run because I'm a cop.
Why don't you
¿Vieron cómo cambió del tono anterior? Ahora está usando este nuevo tono.
stay? You asked me once not to leave, and I'm asking you. So why every 5 seconds do I get I'm leaving because there's a fucking movie party I gotta go to? I have never
Dice, cada 5 minutos tú me estás diciendo que te tienes que ir, porque ahora tienes esto, porque ahora tienes lo otro.
prioritized you behind that. And you, of all people, all this talk about not being that guy, you have done nothing but over the last 2 days but tell me that your movie parties were more important, including the night before last. When
Dice, tú de todas las personas siempre me has dicho que no te importa la fama y ese tipo de cosas, y ahora solamente tienes fiestas.
I said to you the same thing, stay.
Ya está cambiando el tono, pasó de un tono, ahora está en el segundo tono, este es el tercero, escuchen.
And today you apologized, said I love you, I'm so sorry, and then today it takes you 2 seconds. It takes you 20 seconds at most.
¿Ven lo que está haciendo Johnny físicamente? Esta posición es de muchísima paciencia, es Sostenerte, esto es sostenerse, callarse. Mano aquí abajo, estos dedos aquí abajo como para sostener la cabeza. Respirar, sostenerse. Es una posición de mucho poder y de mucha concentración.
Fuck that, I hate you, I don't want to be with you, goodbye, I'm leaving, I'm running away.
No mames, ve cómo hasta lo tumbó.
But I'm not running, I'm walking away.
Y esta posición como de mierda, sosteniendo su mano, agarrando su mano. Es como una manera de aguanta. Es lo que les decía, y esto es justamente las cosas que me llaman tanto la atención. Y yo estoy todo pinche emocionado, espérense. Ve cómo está este Johnny. JD, va a ser más fácil. Ve cómo está JD. Ve cómo está ella. No hay emoción. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo es que no hay emoción? Y todo controlándolo, escribiendo. Controlando las emociones, escribiendo. Controlando.
Then if you don't want to be with me in life,
Cuarto tono. Si no quieres estar conmigo en esta vida.
then you need to actually do it. You need
¿Qué tal? Y él le dice goodbye. Dice, si ya no quieres estar conmigo, te puedes ir. Te lo está diciendo, te está diciendo goodbye, lárgate.
to actually take off your ring and forget that 5 hours ago you said the opposite. Otherwise, you can't keep throwing that around. You can't keep saying to me that
A ver, ¿en qué relación sana puedes estar cuando uno te está diciendo todo el tiempo, ya me voy a ir, ya no te quiero, ya no te amo? Y el otro está, sí, pero hace 5 horas me dijiste que me amabas y que era lo más importante en tu vida. Y le dice, sí, pero ya no, ya vete, adiós. No, pero aquí sigues. Si ya no quieres, quítate tú el anillo. La responsabilidad, ¿a quién se la está mandando? Si tú eres quien ya no puede estar con alguien así, ya no quiere estar con este JD, déjalo, ¿no? Quítate el anillo y ¿sabes qué? A la chingada, cabrón. Yo también soy actriz. Pero no, el chiste no es... Lo que busca el narcisista es el control, es el poder. No es seguir o no en una relación.
this is something you care about.
Órale.
It's not what it's worth to you.
¿Tiró el anillo? Ok.
Rules? Because I asked you to stay. Because I asked you to stay.
No, Amber para nada tiene un desorden de personalidad múltiple. Para nada.
What was it? What was it when you asked me to stay? What was it when you asked me to stay? What was it when you asked me to stay?
Quinto tono diferente. Ahora está violenta hacia adelante. ¿Qué me quieres decir? ¿Qué me quieres decir? Y te lo juro, podría estar, estoy seguro que ya está moviendo los brazos y haciéndose así, pues ya sabes. Y este güey que es sumamente sumiso, porque hay que decirlo, el güey es sumamente sumiso, está como pero ya, no quiero, y no sé qué, y como que se quiere salir de ahí y no puede. Sí tiro el anillo. Sí tiro el anillo. Y todavía ella le dice, si ya no quieres, quítate el anillo. Él se lo quita, lo tira y le dice, así es como quieres que sean las cosas, así es como, ¿sabes? Como de, pero me acabas de decir.
In Australia, you said you promised me not to leave. You said you promised me not to leave. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Did I stay or did I leave? Did I stay or did I leave?
You stayed and you didn't change and you were a fucking
I stayed.
pain in the ass and you were coming.
So I stayed. And
¿Vieron? Cuando te dije que mejor te fueras o te quedaras, pero si te ibas a quedar, te quedaras aquí y cambiaras, ¿no? Dice, ¿pero qué hice? Me quedé. Y él dice, sí, pero no cambiaste. Sí, pero me quedé, pero no cambiaste.
I've been a cunt ever since, which is why you told me about every other day how you couldn't imagine your life without me, including today. So, which guy? Does that seem normal to you? Does that seem normal to you? You told me tonight that you couldn't imagine
Ven, el rostro de Johnny es de avergonzado. Está así abajo, como muy avergonzado, como diciendo, chale.
your life without me, and now you're throwing your ring on the ground. Does that seem normal?
That's how you tell me
That seems sober? You seem normal?
The definition of normal.
Checa, ¿crees que eres normal? ¿Crees que estás sobrio? O sea, ¿ves dónde le está pegando ahora?
Does that seem normal?
You.
Does that seem normal to you?
Borderline personality disorder.
I'm borderline personality disorder now.
Without question.
When I've been
Le dice, tienes trastorno borderline. Dice, ahora tengo trastorno TLP. Yo no creo que tenga TLP, honestamente. No lo creo. Ya cuando veamos el caso de la psicóloga, tengo un libro que se llama DSM-5 explicado, o sea, hecho fácil. Y ahí tengo justamente todos los trastornos para que decirles, aquí está, cuál es el trastorno. Tenemos que quitarle no todas las personas que tienen este trastorno se parecen a esta mujer, de verdad. Y yo ni siquiera creo que tenga trastorno de borderline. Honestamente, no creo que tenga límite de personalidad. Creo que es narcisista. Y es importante que entiendan esto, porque si no, muchas personas que tienen TLP van a creer que son como esta tipa, y claro que no.
Consistent all night saying, don't go, don't fuck this all up. I'm not fighting with you anymore.
Él dice, yo no estoy peleando contigo. ¿Cómo será pelear?
I've been saying this to you the whole night. I'm really sorry we disagreed. You're not perfect. I said this 2 hours ago. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect.
I love you.
But we don't have to do this every time we disagree.
No, we don't. We do.
Please.
We do.
Please, come here.
And you have
Please come here.
No mames, después de todo el desmadre, le hace, a ver, pero ya, ven acá. Ya, no eres perfecto, yo tampoco. Ven acá, ven conmigo. No mames.
Please come here. I'm not insulting you. I have not been insulting you. I love you. Johnny, what do you need me to do? I love you. Stop.
Smack me on the ear again.
¿Ven cómo lo persigue? Va atrás de él. A ver, una persona si tuviera trastorno de límite de la personalidad o histriónico, como pues dijo la psicóloga o psiquiatra, no tiene esta capacidad de controlar los desbordes emocionales. Y esta mujer, por alguna razón, tiene la capacidad de siempre controlar sus desbordes emocionales. Vela cómo está ahorita que está escuchando esto. Tan fría como un hielo. Y él, a cambio de posición, ha hecho esto, ha hecho esto, ha hecho esto, ha hecho esto. No sabe ni dónde esconderse.
Smack my ear again. Fucking resoundance in my fucking cranium. You like that? Huh?
Y dice, te amo. De verdad, discúlpame, te amo. Te vuelves loco. Te vuelves absolutamente loco. Ve la cara de Johnny.
I don't love you that much. No, I don't. I do not love you that much. To give up myself? No. I do not. I will not give up myself. And you want me to fucking be some kind of cursed goddamn parrot or a fucking weird frenzied dog? No, won't be it. You know?
Frenzied dog? I'm trying to talk
Or
to
your goddamn fucking lover, Tasia Fantasia.
Ahora está diciendo, ahora cálmate. Ella cambió 5 veces de tono. Lo hizo emputarse. Ahora que ya está emputado y está hablando, cálmate. Gaslighting, baby.
I'm not gonna be that shit, man. No, I don't want to be with you. If these are the fucking rules.
No quiero estar contigo, le dice.
I'm making this up. That, above all else, is an insult.
Mr. Depp, what are you and Ms. Heard discussing in this recording?
¿De qué está peleando?
It is another argument that is apparently not an argument to her. The screeching of her voice, the demand that things go her way and only her way. I was done, and I think I stated clearly, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with you. I'm not going to be a parrot on or some little dog that runs through hoops for you. I ain't gonna...
Eso es importante. Si ya no quiero estar contigo, ya no quiero ser ese perro que está saltando para que tú lo quieras.
Do that, and I wanted out. She said,
Quería
"Take the
salirme."
ring off. She still wouldn't let me leave. I did.
Dice, sí, quítate el anillo. Se quita el anillo. Y dice, y aún así, no me dejaba salir.
She still wouldn't let me leave. So it's just another example of kind of being nailed in one spot and not allowed to do anything but react to her screaming and
Sí, terminé reaccionando, dice.
screaming like a banshee and then telling me to calm down.
¿Qué les dije? Dice, te grita como si fuera un banshee, que es como un tipo de animal, ¿no? Gritándome muchísimo. Y cuando ya por fin me pongo mal, me dice que me calme. Es el típico juego del narcisista. Ahora, ¿un narcisista te puede convertir en un narcisista? No. Un narcisista te termina convirtiendo en mierda, en codependiente, en su mascota.
I thought,
Where were you trying to go, if you can recall?
anywhere, the way.
¿A dónde te querrías ir? A donde
Why
sea.
did you ask Ms. Heard if she wanted to smack you in the ear again?
She had given me a good chop.
Aquí se está preocupando. Vean la chica. Dice, ¿por qué le dijiste a Miss Hearst que te volviera a golpear en la oreja? Checa esto.
In the ear, one of those where
Está preocupada. Mira. Mira. Está hiper preocupada. Ve la cara que pone aquí. Oh no. ¿Por qué salió esto? Mira. Hasta parpadea 2 veces de la ansiedad.
leaves you ringing, And it was not long before that, and so I thought, maybe this will make you happy. Will it make you happy would you like to hit me in the ear again?
Si te gustaría volverme a pegar para ser feliz.
Would that make you feel better? Will that make you stop this?
Va a ser que ya pares.
Would have done
si me
anything to
pegas.
stop. Outside of taking anything to some physical level, I disagreed with that wholeheartedly. That's not me. It's not who I've ever been. It's not who I'll ever be.
Dice, yo nunca le pegaría porque no soy yo nunca sería así. Y sí, es real, porque recuerden que él sufrió violencia en la infancia y es algo que no es día. Además, ayer estaba pensando en algo, porque obviamente me quedo con eso. Porque pinche traumado, ¿no? Me quedo ahí pensando. Si fuera cierto esto de Amber y de que de verdad Johnny, o sea, JD fuera tan violento con las mujeres, pues el tipo lleva casi 30 años en la industria del cine, o sea, no hubieran salido ya como muchísimas más mujeres diciendo, sí, me golpeó y fue un culero y fui su novia y, ¿sabes? O sea, cuando alguien es violento, es violento. Yo creo que este güey es sumiso, honestamente.
Mr. Depp, I'm going to play another audio recording. This is a different portion from what Mr. Rottenborn played for you today. It's DX 590.
Ya entendí qué están haciendo. ¿Ven que todos ponen como los audios y tal minuto, no sé qué, y vamos a ver audio, no sé qué? Ella está diciendo, ahora voy a poner el mismo audio que te pusieron, pero otros tiempos. Porque recuerden que la idea de esto es justamente sacar el contexto, o sacar de contexto. Justo como de esta manera, como decir, en esta parte dijiste eso, sí, pero si escuchas todo el audio, dice esto.
I believe the portion Mr. Rottenborn played was designated 598B, so this will be 598C.
Okay.
And first, I'd like to play the portion from 31 minutes, 14 seconds to 33 minutes, 4 seconds.
Any objection to 598C?
And then we will go on and play the second portion, which is
¿Me están diciendo que Amber sí tiene denuncias de violencia? No lo dudaría, ¿eh?
56 minutes, 27 seconds to 59 minutes, 54 seconds.
All right, 598C in evidence.
It builds, right? Like you build, I build, it isn't like at one moment either of us sign a certificate of saying, or like sign a contract or say, okay, now I'm bloodbath. No. So acting as though there's a choice between the two is irrelevant. I'm not asking you to stay over having a bloodbath. I'm asking you, over walking away. I'm not asking you to have a bloodbath over walking away. I'm asking you to work it out over prolonging it and making it bigger.
Right, but
at least that's how I see it.
Indeed, but if things get heated,
yeah,
and it looks like it's going somewhere nasty, and the name calling begins, and all that stuff, I've got to get away. Because I don't want to be ever in a situation.
Aquí lo está diciendo. Cada vez que las cosas se ponen tensas, se ponen difíciles, yo necesito irme. Yo necesito salir de ahí. Y sí, es algo que hacen las personas que son evasivas. Él aprendió a ser evasivo con la mamá que tenía.
Again, like that. Never.
Me too.
Never. So
Me too.
that's don't freak out if we do have a fight and I walk away.
I'm not going to do that. I'm asking you to stay when you feel you are also in the interest of working it out.
I think it's a good idea for us to take a moment or two, or take some time. Take some time to think by ourselves without being, barraged by each other's fucking bullshit, whatever's. I just let's take a break from it, and then come back, try and be calm, and walk through the thing. But I'm not gonna stand and fight with you. I will not. You can call me a coward.
I don't
You
want
can call
that.
me anything you want. All those names, do it. But I will not do it again.
Please stop asking. Please, can you stop for the sake of this conversation?
No, I'm just saying I won't do it again. Okay?
Si ubicas bien lo que está haciendo Amber, cada vez que escribe es para retomar la parte emocional, pero muchas veces hace esto. Y es porque empieza a tener ansiedad, empieza a no tener control de sus emociones, se empieza a, ya sabes, y dice, ok, entonces, ¿no? Y va a jalar otra vez, empieza a escribir.
Okay, great. Then let's take our space, and let's not do this anymore, because I'm really getting frustrated. And I'm really, really, really sick of this argument.
Stop, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay?
Ya no puedo con esto, vamos, cada quien vaya a hacer su lado y después platicamos. Y ella, no, todavía, stop.
Why are you saying stop?
Please,
May
please,
I
so-
go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk
Porque me estresas muchísimo cuando te vas.
away from me with that. Is like you don't understand how much worse you're making this.
I can't believe it.
Tú no entiendes cuánto lo empeoras cuando te vas. Y es lo primero que les decimos en las relaciones de pareja. Cuando se estén peleando feo, dense un tiempo fuera, cada quien a su esquina, relájense y vuelvan a platicar. Es lo que este tipo está haciendo. Y de pronto es como de, no.
Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Please, I'm only trying to tell you so that you know you're causing me immense stress right now when you walk
Tú me causas demasiado estrés cuando te vas.
away like that. There's no reason to be mad.
Well, then say goodbye. I haven't
Si te causa tanto estrés, dime adiós y lárgate.
walked away. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave.
Pero no me dejas ir.
Let me leave.
Stop rushing me! Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with the stick and then saying, why are you saying the words you want me to say? Stop poking me! Stop rushing me! Stop throwing me!
Deja de empujarme, deja de meterme en la esquina, déjame de picar.
against the wall. I'm going, what? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing
Uf, ve la reacción de Johnny, por favor. Ve esta reacción. Fíjate en él.
me. Stop throwing me against the wall. I'm going, what? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing me.
Él mismo se dio asco. Él mismo se dio asco.
Remember? I'm not pushing you. I'm rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my...
Y no asco porque la golpea nada de eso, ¿eh? No. Asco de pensamiento. Seguro su pensamiento es, ¿cómo es que me quedé tanto tiempo?
my space. Whether you like it or not, I will take it. And you will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing anything
this
to you.
and continuing
I'm
with
not
the rhetoric,
continuing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't... Okay, stop. I'm stop. Stop. Now I have to go. Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple of hours.
Se le está pidiendo 2 horas. A couple of hours son unas horas. Y ella diciéndole, no, porque me tortura el hecho de que no estés conmigo. Nos vemos en unas horas. Qué rico, ¿no? Date tu tiempo, platica, conócete, piensa las pendejadas que dijiste y luego regresamos.
Okay? I hope you have some kind of revelation makes you feel better.
Ahí, ¿escuchaste cómo tartamudeó? Seguramente alguna revelación hará que nos sintamos mejor, pero hasta tartamudeó.
You know, I hope I do too. But we'll just see when I get home. We'll just talk, or we won't talk, or we'll finish this, or we won't finish it. But this is not love. This is not happiness. This is not. This is.
Please stop
¿Qué tal? Esto es tortura emocional, Rey.
doing this. Please, you're causing me so much fucking stress. I'm gonna die at this age. I'm gonna fucking die. You're causing me so much stress.
Me causas tanto estrés que me voy a morir.
Please stop. Please, I feel like I have a heart attack.
Y la señorita Amber, ni una emoción. Ni una.
Almost every day. Please stop. Please
what do you
stop
think? Why-
doing it. Please stop. He's so fucking mean.
Why
You're
are
a
you with
fucking
me?
bully. Stop.
Eres malo, eres un bully para... ¿Qué onda? No, ella no tiene suficiente dinero como para decir, ¿sabes qué? La chingada contigo me voy y camina. No tiene nada que ver con dinero, se los decía. Tiene que ver con poder. Ella quiere tener el poder.
Please stop. I've been begging you not to fight. I just said, can we please have a normal argument? Just
Ven cómo le hace, te estoy rogando y le pega las manos, hace todo este movimiento. Él no es quien hace esto, es ella. ¿Quién podría entonces ser la violenta?
even a normal conversation, fucking normal argument. And for the last hour, I've been begging you to please just leave it at that. Let's just go on with our night. I would have been able to come in with you. We would have been able to let it go in a few minutes. It would have been fine. It would just, if we allowed ourselves to have fucking normal arguments. Please, you're killing me with this. You're killing me. You're fucking killing me.
Me estás matando, ¿qué tal, eh?
Yeah, fuck.
Ve la cara de... Es impresionante cómo él sí lo está sufriendo. Ve esto, ve cómo está sufriéndola él. Hasta la abogada de Amber está sufriéndola. La única que no lo sufre es Amber.
Sean, could you, please, I want you to just go. I want you to take your medicine or whatever. I'm sorry that I've upset you.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I'm ready to go. Thank you so much.
Mr. Depp, in the beginning, well, first of all, do you know where you are when you're having this discussion with Ms. Heard?
¿Sabes dónde estás cuando estás discutiendo con ella? Y vean, ella, después de haber escuchado todo esto, véanla. Toda fría, toda. Sí, decías.
The only, excuse me, the only clue that I have is that Sean is being called. I called Sean and said to drive her home, or I believe it was probably at Sweetser, so then she could drive back. He would drive her back to downtown, House 3. She didn't seem in any shape to drive.
Ok, dice, seguramente estamos en Switzer y le pedí que la llevara al departamento 3, al penthouse 3, porque ella no tenía la capacidad de manejar.
To me.
And earlier in the clip, there was a reference to a bloodbath. What does that mean in
Hubo una referencia a un baño de sangre.
the context of that conversation?
¿Cuál es el contexto?
I don't know. Again, it seems like some word that was it became
Objection,
part
Your
of
Honor.
it.
He said he doesn't know.
All right, I'll sustain objection. Next question.
Mr. Depp, at the end of the day on Thursday, Mr. Rottenborn played an audio recording for you where you were heard saying you were going to hurt yourself. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I'm not going to play that audio recording again. It seemed upsetting to you, but I do want to ask you a couple questions about that, okay?
Sure.
Could you please tell the jury when that recording is from?
That recording is from July of 2016. This was a few months after the restraining order had been put on me. I had been on tour through Europe, and then coming through the States, I got messages from Christian Carino, who was both of our former agent, saying that Ms. Heard wanted to meet with me in San Francisco, because we had one of our last dates on the tour was San Francisco. And I was confused as to why Ms. Heard wanted to meet with me, especially since I was under a court order not to come within, I don't know, 100, 200 feet or something of her. So at first I said...
Objection, Your Honor. The question was simply, do you remember when that was from? So beyond scope.
Okay. So where were you when that recording was taken?
That was in San Francisco at a hotel room.
Ya. Todo esto es porque ella le mete una orden de restricción para que no se pueda acercar a ella, bueno, sí, él a ella, y luego le dice que se quiere encontrar con él en San Francisco, y es donde está este recording, esta voz, este audio que estábamos escuchando.
So we went to a hotel room so that we could finish the discussion that she wanted to have with me.
And
Porque quería terminar la discusión con él en el hotel.
how did that discussion go?
Not particularly well. I was
¿Cómo terminó esa discusión? Para nada bien.
quite confused as to why I had been summoned to her at that point, since all the news was just about the fact that I had allegedly done all these horrible things to her, and so I was talked into going there. I went and met with her in hopes that she would retract her lies.
Dice, fui a hablar con ella esperando que ella pues dijera que no es verdad lo que dijo.
That the world was now had been fed, and in no way was she ready to do that. And I couldn't understand why I was there. Everything had been taken from me. My children couldn't escape the fact that all this had gone down. So
Objection,
I was
Your Honor. The question was, how did the discussion go? And he's talking about his children. It's way beyond the scope.
just talking.
Sir, just wait for the objection.
I think he's describing the context around that conversation.
It's way beyond the scope of the
All
question.
right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Depp, why
¿Cómo se enoja? ¿Se acuerdan que es la sonrisa que les decía yo que le ponía a la mamá? Cuando se enojaba con la mamá, pero simplemente no quería represalias.
were you threatening to
¿Ok? Una sonrisa muy rápida.
hurt yourself in that audio recording?
¿Por qué estás amenazándote en este audio que no pusieron ahorita? Es un audio anterior.
In fact, I wasn't threatening to hurt myself. I thought that Miss Heard had
No estaba amenazando con lastimarme a mí mismo.
brought me to San Francisco. At that point, it was clear it was under false pretenses. I don't know what she was after.
Era lógico que me estaba trayendo para falsamente, y no sabía lo que quería.
So I had a knife in my pocket, and I just took the knife out and I said, "Here, cut me."
Dice, como sabía que era una mentira, llevaba un cuchillo y saqué el cuchillo y dije, aquí está mi cuchillo, córtame.
That's what you want to do. Ultimately, you've taken everything. You want my blood.
Dice, últimamente ya te llevaste todo. Fue después de ¿se acuerdan que hizo el escrito y lo destruyó? Dice, ya te llevaste todo, también ten mi sangre.
Take it.
Es súper dramático este güey. O sea, sí creo que la neta Amber lo llevó al extremo, pero también JD tiene un problema de sumisión y evitación muy cabrón.
Have my blood. And then she said, no. And then I said, look, if you're not going to take it, you want it. I know you want it. That's all I've got left.
Porque lo único que me dejaste es la sangre.
Take it. If she wasn't going to do it, I would have done it. Because that's psychologically, emotionally where I was. I was at the end.
Sí, porque dice, psicológicamente yo ya estaba jodido. Yo ya no podía más. ¿Quieres mi sangre? Ahí está mi sangre. Ya te llevaste todo.
I was broken. Not only had I had to deal with
Estaba roto. Ve, él se está rompiendo ahorita. Se está rompiendo frente al jurado. Y la señorita de hielo.
everything from coming in from, arrows from all over the world. But now I don't know what she was trying to do. So I just thought the only answer is here. Cut me. Take my blood. That's all I've got left to give you. And obviously, there was no threat to Ms. Heard with that knife. It was about spilling my blood, because I thought that's what the only thing she didn't have at that point. And I was broken and really just at the end. I couldn't take it anymore. Everybody, I know that's his job, but that was quite a cruel...
Objection, Your Honor. We're well beyond the scope.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Gracias, Julieta.
Finally, I'd like to play a portion from Plaintiff's Exhibit 357, specifically the portions at 18 minutes 43 seconds through 21 minutes 46 seconds.
357.
No, yo no creo que Johnny tenga TLP, ¿eh? Trastorno límite personal, para nada. Creo que Johnny tiene un terrible enfermedad de adicción. Eso sí creo. Sí creo que es una persona con adicción, trastorno de ansiedad generalizado, seguro. Y depresión.
7, is that correct?
357, yes.
All right, so is this going to be another one where it's going to be an A, or is this going to be all that's going to be offered?
Why don't we go with A to
We're
be
going
safe?
with A. Okay, could you give me the numbers again, just so I have them for the record? What are you going to play?
It is 357, beginning at 18 minutes 43 seconds through...
Esto que está haciendo de arreglarse los anillos ahorita Johnny tiene mucho que ver con querer resolver las cosas, con ordenar de nuevo. Se siente se desbordó tanto ahorita que está hablando, que está buscando con ¿sabes? Como trabajar voy a ordenarme de nuevo, voy a integrarme de nuevo. Y es una buena manera de concentrarse para no romperse. Estaba a punto de romper.
through 21 minutes, 46 seconds.
All right, any objection to 357A? All right, 357A in evidence.
It's been going on too long, Amber. And we just gotta stop this. Just gotta stop it.
I don't know how to get my reputation back.
We write a letter together
I mean,
saying that we're gonna take this out of the public eye. Saying that we're gonna try and work this out on our own. Saying that the media has created such a fucking hateful storm that it's sickening, that we love each other, and that we want to make sure each other is okay. Have we had fights in the past? Have we had this or whatever? Fuck it, they already know all that shit. Don't matter. Here's the deal.
no, it matters. It makes. You have no idea. Every ounce of my credibility has been taken from. I mean, and done so in a dishonest way. You know.
Amber, the abuse thing is we've got to deal with that. Yeah. We've got to deal with that,
I don't have
Amber.
any way of my credit. It's my credibility. You know what? I
Ok, creo que eso tiene que ver con cuando ella saca el artículo, él logra hablar con ella y le dice, oye, ¿qué onda? O sea, vamos a hablar con la prensa, vamos a decir que tú y yo lo vamos a resolver juntos porque nos queremos y saquemos a la prensa de aquí, nos está lastimando a todos. Dice, sí, pero yo voy a perder mi credibilidad.
Why did you put that out there?
Sí, es sobre el artículo.
did not. You forced me. Your team.
Dice, ¿por qué sacaste eso? Dice, yo no lo hice, tú me forzaste. Madres.
Forced me to by going on the offense.
I didn't force you to.
I promise. Look up the timelines for these things. Everything is. Forget it. Forget it. You don't believe what I say. You don't believe what I say. But
Tú nunca me crees, tú nunca me crees.
I did not choose this. Every step of the way has been an offense.
I did not put this anywhere. I didn't. Let me talk to the fucking team.
I did not call the cops. I did no statement.
IO called the
I did not
cops.
call the cops.
You told IO to call the cops.
I did not call the cops, and I did not give them any statement when they came. I've been trying to protect you.
You told IO to call the cops.
Si yo no llamé a los policías, dice tú, y le dice a Johnny, tú le pediste a no sé quién que llamara a la policía.
While it was happening?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, because the last time that it got crazy between us, I really did think I was going to lose my life, and I thought you would do it on accident.
Dice, lo siento, pero la última vez que nos peleamos tú y yo, pensé que iba a morir.
And I told you that. I said, oh my God, I thought the first time.
Amber, I lost a fucking finger, man. Come on. I had a mineral can, a jar of mineral spirits thrown at my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell the
¿Qué onda con esta parte? Espérate, le está diciendo que a ver, que se lo digan jurado.
people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge
Fue en una pelea justa y a ver qué dice el jurado.
think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
Yes.
I know it's a fair fight. It sees how many people believe or side with you.
Era una pelea justa y a ver cuánta gente te cree.
It doesn't matter if fair fight my ass.
Exactly, because you're
La paré perfecto. Quiero que veas cómo ella empieza a buscar llorar. Checa.
it sees
Está accediendo a una emoción. Checa lo que va a hacer. Ve a Amber.
or side with you.
It doesn't matter if fair fight my ass.
Exactly, because you're
Ve lo que está haciendo. Está literal empezando a hacer este movimiento como para buscar llorar. Como está accediendo a la emoción. Cuidado, acuérdense que los actores saben hacer esto.
Mr. Depp, when did you have the conversation reflected in this recording with Ms. Heard?
Pues ya no lloró. Ahí está accediendo. Ya poco a poco está
I
accediendo.
don't recall exactly when it was.
No recuerdo cuándo fue.
What's your best estimate?
¿Tu mejor estimado?
My best estimate is that it was quite a while before the meeting in San Francisco in July. Excuse me.
How
Antes
far
de San
after
Francisco.
May 21st, 2016, do you think that conversation was?
Objection, calls for speculation. Sorry, he said he doesn't remember when it was.
I'm asking for his best estimate.
I'll allow him to answer this one.
Sorry, could you ask it again? I was distracted.
How long after May 21st, 2016, do you believe that conversation took place?
I would say that it was not too far, maybe a couple of months. It was far enough to where the world media was already bombarding me. So it was an attempt to try to make all the
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope.
All right, I'll sustain objection. Next question.
What are you referring to when you said you and Miss Heard will write a letter together?
¿Qué significó que dijiste que iban a escribir una carta juntos?
I was trying to make a peaceful settlement.
Quería tener cerrar bien, en paz, este juicio. Bueno, este divorcio, supongo.
And what are you referring to when you say you lost a finger?
¿Y a qué te refieres cuando dijiste que perdiste un dedo?
A very large bottle of vodka severing my my middle finger in Australia.
And
Me refería cuando la botella de vodka me cayó en el dedo.
what were you referring to when you said a can of mineral spirits was thrown at your nose?
Eso está interesante. Que le pegó en la nariz le pegó un lata de minerales.
One of the arguments on the island where Miss Heard had been howling at me with some argument, and she picked up a can of mineral spirits about yay big and heaved it at me, and it struck me on the bridge of the nose and right there, the forehead.
And what did you say in
Ven, está diciendo, ella me aventó una lata de no sé qué sea mineral spirit. Puede ser un tipo de alcohol, no sé, no tengo ni idea qué chingo sea, pero bueno, le aventó una lata que era grande, porque lo que está diciendo físicamente es como de este tamaño, me pegó justamente en el borde de la nariz, y yo veo que ella está como de... Sí le pegué. No le atiné donde quería. ¿Sabes?
response when Miss Heard said, "Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence."
¿Y a qué se refería Amber cuando le dijo, yo, Johnny Depp, soy un hombre que tiene violencia doméstica?
I said, yes, I am.
Dije, sí,
I have
soy.
nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. So you can have a seat next to your attorney, please. Thank you. All right, your next witness.
Y ve, Amber así como de, ok, that's life.
Ben King.
Ok, ¿quién es Ben King? ¿Alguien sabe quién es Ben King? Vamos a ponerlo. Espérate, me fui muy adelante. Aquí está. Ahí. ¿De dónde eres? London. House manager. Es un asistente personal y gerente de casas. O sea, cuando uno siente que tiene, ya sabes, siento que tengo privilegios. ¡Ja! Eres nada. No tienes un gerente de tu casa, ni un asistente personal. Chale. Ay, sí es cierto, se perdió el audio, ¿verdad? Déjame ver qué pasó. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Dónde está el audio? ¿Dónde está el audio? Stream, ajá, muy bien. Ajá, ¿qué pasó con el audio? Gracias por avisarme. Oh, no, nos estamos quedando sin internet. No, ruégale a los dioses del internet en este momento. Dioses de internet. Sí me escucharon a mí las pendejadas que dije, ¿no? No se escucha qué. No me escucho yo o no se escucha lo que está aquí. A ver, necesito esperar. ¿A quién no escucharon? ¿No me escucharon a mí o no escucharon a este tipo? Sí, eso sí, el video. Ok, ya, el video ya se va a arreglar. Gracias, TikTok, gracias. Ya arreglé el video. No sé por qué se cambió.
And can you just tell
Ahí está.
those of us in the courtroom who aren't familiar, what does that mean?
I work presently for a gentleman who's in the entertainment industry, and I manage his property, a large apartment in central London, take care of the daily needs and running of that, oversight of the staff, and travelling with him when needed and things like that.
And how long have you been in this occupation?
Since about 1991, I started in private service, if you like, in-house management, in butlering, in all that stuff.
Ok.
Typically based around London?
Correct. I started work in London. Was my first big job at Buckingham Palace, funnily enough, for 4 years, and then I continued
Vale, empezó trabajando en Buckingham Palace, en el Palacio de Buckingham. Pobrecito.
in different positions, full-time and self-employed, freelance capacity for many years as well.
Just generally, can you tell us, and without getting into any specifics, but what type of people would you say you typically provide these services for?
Generally high net worth people, individuals or families, residencies.
Are you familiar with the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with Mr. Depp?
I met and worked for Mr. Depp in 2014, and subsequently a couple of times after that.
Okay. And can you briefly just explain to the jury how it came to be that you were working
La posición del abogado me mama. ¿Podría explicarnos usted? ¿Sabe? Me encantó.
for Mr. Depp?
Sure.
Ay, su cara cuando va a hablar de Mr. Depp. Ve, su cara está increíble. Si lo quiere, mira.
Explain to the jury how it came to be that you were working for Mr. Depp?
Sure.
Mira. Ay, lo quiero un chingo.
Yes, at that point I was working in a freelance, self-employed capacity. A lot of my jobs came through friends of friends, personal recommendations, etc. And I was asked by a friend of a friend on this occasion, would I be available, to go and manage a property where Mr. Depp was going to be staying for about a month in central London. Was I available? Would I be willing to do it? And I was available at that point. And so I said yes.
¿No les parece que este güey es como una versión chiquita de Edward Norton? Perdón por el comentario pendejo, pero no sé por qué me recordó a Edward Norton.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to make sure we're on the same page, what time frame are we talking about here?
That was August 2014.
Okay. And did you in fact end up working for Mr. Depp in that time frame?
I did, yes.
Now, just to clarify, were you employed by Mr. Depp?
No.
So who was your employer?
I was paid through a large hotel which was close by to the house, who also, they provided the housekeeper who was working with us for that month as well. So I was paid through them.
Okay. Can you just generally explain to us what kind of work you were doing for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this time frame?
Sure, yeah, it was the setup of the house, basically. Setting up the house initially, which meant ahead of the principals arriving, which meant making sure all the linens were in place for the bedrooms. It was a sizable property, and just organizing everything ahead of their arrival. Once they arrived, it was the management of that property, the oversight of it, and the day-to-day running, some service, like butler service, and managing the housekeeper day-to-day through that whole month.
¿Alguien sabe por qué la abogada de Johnny se está ríe? La estoy viendo aquí, está ríe.
And when you refer to the principals, who are you referring to?
Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
¿Quién sabe? Tengo mis dudas ahora.
Where exactly were you working in London?
No hay mucho que traducir, chicos y chicas. Está hablando de que fue el mayordomo de Johnny Depp y que lo contrató una empresa gigante, creo que Disney, supongo.
At this point, just kind of describe for us the house. I guess.
This was in Mayfair.
Así, descríbenos la casa.
It was a large townhouse in an old building, but it was very contemporary inside, modern, furnished, very modern sort of way. Quite spacious, maybe 4 or 5 bedrooms, I think. A small indoor pool, a small gym.
Small gym, un gimnasio pequeño, una alberca pequeña, 4 o 5 cuartos, ¿sabes? En Londres, o sea.
Quite an open plan layout throughout the house.
And how long were they there?
For the month, essentially, yes.
Un mes completo estuvieron ahí.
Can you tell us just generally what hours you would typically work in a day while you were working for them in London in this time frame?
Yeah, approximately. It depended on what was going on, but I mean, generally 7 or 8 in the morning till 7 or 8 in the evening, typically.
Trabajamos de 7 a 8 de la mañana hasta 7, 8 de la noche.
There was a chef employed as well.
Había un chef.
Russell, brilliant chef. He tended to say after I left in the evening, he would cook dinner, serve dinner, and thankfully cleaned up after dinner, so I could leave sort of early to mid-evening, usually most days. Unless we had guests, unless there were guests or other things going on.
Güey, me siento nada. Me siento absolutamente nada. Tenía un chef, wow, este cabrón esto.
During your time managing the house for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in 2014, did you have occasion to observe the interactions between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, absolutely.
¿Te tocó ver las reacciones? O sea, ¿te tocó ver las reacciones de estos dos cuando estaban en la casa?
How often?
Most daily, I would say. Pretty much
Diariamente los
most days
veía.
through that period.
And did you yourself interact with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, also daily, I would say.
¿Interactúas con
Would you say,
¿Interactúas con JD? Sí.
or did you see one of them more often than the other?
Ms. Heard was there. Mr. Depp was, the reason I think they rented the house was because Mr. Depp was working at a studio. I think it was Mordecai, the movie. So Ms. Heard was there at the house most of the days. Mr. Depp often went to work and came back
Ya, quien estaba más en la casa era Amber.
later on in that evening, that day.
How would you generally describe the interactions?
¿Te acuerdas de los primeros días que vimos en los videos de este juicio? Si te acuerdas, Johnny andaba como muy como cabizbajo, todo. Y ahorita si lo ves anda como más alineadito, más fresco.
That you observed between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Initially, very sort of loving towards each other. You know,
Al principio cuando los vi eran como muy amables y muy amorosos entre ellos.
nice couple. Mr. Depp was always a gentleman and keen to make sure Ms. Heard was taken care of, anything she needed.
Siempre Johnny estuvo pendiente de que todo lo que necesitara Amber se le diera.
He did often pour a glass of wine for her.
Que siempre se tuviera un vaso de vino para ella.
Just nice, you know, pleasant.
How about your own interactions with the couple? How did you get along with them both?
I think very well. Yeah, they were.
¿Cómo
really
eran
open
tus
to me.
interacciones con él?
I mean, my background's quite formal, so it was quite an informal setting. I was able to ask questions.
Deme un segundo. Quiero ver algo. Deme un segundo, A ver si así.
To either of them.
Yeah.
Ms. Heard especially, it was really helpful to get information about what time they wanted dinner, you know,
Como que Johnny sabe algo, como dice, este güey va a decir algo chingón.
basic stuff like that, or anything. It was good interaction all the time with the both of them.
Okay. Now you mentioned wine. Can you tell us to what extent did you observe either of them consume alcohol over the course of these 4 weeks?
Sure.
¿Cada cuánto los veías tomar alcohol?
When I started that job, or when I was taking that job on, I was told, I think by Mr. Depp's assistant, that he was. Oh, sorry.
Can you answer without telling what you were told?
¿Podrías contestar sin decir lo que se te dijo?
I was made aware that Mr. Depp was.
Could you put your microphone on?
Okay.
Same objection. He's explaining what he's been told. Now he just said I was informed.
I don't think it's offered for the truth, Your Honor. I think it's just offered to explain his own behavior towards the couple.
No, it's can we approach?
Okay.
Ay, ahí van otra vez a acercarse. ¡Íbamos bien! Ay, Dios mío. ¿Cómo volteé a ver al jurado? El mayordomo. Doc tiene que escuchar lo que va a pasar. Pues aquí andamos todos, ¿no? Es que, a ver, sí, claro, es que el mayordomo tiene que decir, me dijeron esto, que hiciera esto. No puede decir, pues a mi pinche forma de pensar, ¿no?
All right, so Mr. King, moving past the conversation, let's not touch on that. But just in general, can you describe the alcohol consumption that you personally observed and
Generalmente, ¿qué es lo que viste en alcohol?
what you personally witnessed?
Sure. I didn't see Mr. Depp consume any alcohol during that time in London.
Yo no vi que Depp tomara alcohol en Londres.
There was a large consignment of wine that had been delivered to the house at the start of the visit. Many cases that
Pero sí llegaban muchos cajas de alcohol.
I had to store, had to find a place to store.
Y yo tenía que encontrar dónde meterlas.
And generally speaking, on a day-to-day, about 1 or 2 bottles of red wine were consumed
1 o 2 botellas de vino se consumían
per day. I think that's fair.
al
to
día.
say.
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp drink any of the wine?
No, I didn't.
¿Alguna vez viste a Johnny tomando?
Did you ever observe
No.
Ms. Heard drink any of the wine?
Yes, I did.
¿Viste a Amber tomando? Sí.
Regularly?
Daily.
Regularmente, diariamente.
Now, I think you already testified that you observed interactions with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, and you generally found them to be friendly. Is that fair?
Very much so, yes.
Were there any exceptions to that?
Towards me?
I'll rephrase. Did you ever observe any arguments between the two?
Yes, I did.
I'll allow this one. Good.
You can answer.
¿Viste alguna vez que se pelearan? Sí.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah.
Okay, and can you describe for us the arguments that you observed?
I can describe
¿Qué tipo de discusiones bellas?
2 of them, certainly. There were a few arguments on that during that month.
Sí hubo varios argumentos, discusiones.
Let's just start with those two.
Okay.
¿Podrías explicarnos qué fueron?
The first one I remember was an evening. Actually, they were both, the ones I recall were, and I was close to, were evenings. This first particular evening, the couple were due to go out for dinner, I guess. I know the car was waiting in the little courtyard there, ready for them to go, and security were waiting to take them. I was waiting to see them out into the car. I was at the foot of on the ground floor level, to wait to see them out, essentially. And the first thing I heard was Miss Heard shouting upstairs in the master suite.
Ok, dice, ya estaba el coche, ya estaba la seguridad, y de pronto escuché a Amber gritando en el Master Suite. Master Suite. O sea, en la recámara principal.
Where they were getting ready to leave. I heard her shout something, I don't recall what, as in
Dice, gritó. Ve la cara del tipo, es como de a huevos. Sí, este güey se escuchó gritos. Dice, no sé qué gritó, pero gritó.
the vicinity. I wasn't really there to listen.
Yo no estaba ahí para escuchar, nada más escuché un grito.
And I heard footsteps, loud footsteps, sort of going across. There's like a corridor, if you like, the
Y estaba escuchando que caminaban en un corredor.
top of those stairs that went around the master suite. Loud footsteps, and then more footsteps following, more shouting. And that sort of went on for some time. I mean, I knew that.
Vean cómo está apretando la boquita. Boca de pato. Porque sabe que aquí algo va a decir que no le va a gustar a ella.
What time they needed to leave. I don't recall what time that was, but I knew they were supposed to have left
Este güey está súper nervioso, está hasta tragando saliva así de...
already. And it went on for a bit.
Do you recall how that first fight or argument resolved?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I know
¿Sabes cómo terminó esta discusión? Dice, no necesariamente.
that they left eventually, albeit late. I don't know how it really resolved, because I sort of made myself busy, but not going too far away from the door.
Dice, no sé cómo terminó, pero pues también yo estaba cerquita porque pues por si me necesitaban. Para la pelea, supongo.
Make sure I saw them out.
All right, and then what about the second argument that you mentioned?
Second one, I was pretty much in the same vicinity, the same room on the ground
En la segunda discusión estaba yo casi en el mismo lugar.
floor. Again, the couple were in the TV room, I think, which was off the main sitting room.
Creo que la pareja estaba en el salón de la
The
televisión.
evening, and I was going about my early evening duties, replenishing drinks close by, lighting the fire, lighting candles, whatever it might have been.
Estaba yo prendiendo velas, prendiendo la fogata. Obviamente, o sea, el mayordomo tiene que prender la chimenea, o sea, con troncos de robles, no sé, es una mamada. Güey, soy pobre.
I was close enough to hear Miss Heard say, "Why did you take your hand away from me, Johnny? Don't you love me anymore?"
Ok, escuché además a Amber diciendo, ¿por qué quitaste tu mano? ¿Ya no me amas?
Like, not in a playful way, I might add.
Y no de una manera juguetona.
And I think he replied, "Of course I do, don't be silly. Yeah, of course I do." And
Le dijo, claro que sí.
it kind of launched from that point.
Y de ahí empezó la pelea.
And at one point, Mr. Depp got up and went to the bathroom or went upstairs, and I was sort of scuttling around out of the way because I wasn't there listening. I was just there doing my stuff in and around them. Yeah, it was a strange, sort of banal way to start an argument. But
Dice, fue muy raro que empezaran a hacer una discusión, pero sí estaba y ya después Johnny se fue a un baño. Pero si ves, está muy nervioso él.
How would you describe Miss Heard's tone when she said, why did you take your hand away, Johnny?
¿Cómo describirías el tono de Heard?
accusatory, spoiled
Una forma de acusatoria.
teenage child.
Como si fuera una niña berrinchuda adolescente. ¡A huevo!
Maybe, is that fair? Pretty, not playfully, let's put it that way, more angrily.
Over the course of the 4 weeks in August and September 2014, when you were working with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in London,
Yes.
Did you ever observe any physical violence of any kind between the two of them?
No, I didn't.
¿Alguna vez viste violencia física? Dice no.
Did you ever observe any injuries on either one of them?
No, neither of them.
Okay. After those 4 weeks, did you ever work for Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard again?
I did, a couple of occasions. The following year was the first one. The following
¿Y volviste a trabajar con ellos? Sí, algunas veces.
spring
Okay, and where was that?
in Australia.
And was it unusual for you to be in Australia?
In Australia, maybe, but not unusual for me to travel for clients for my assignments to wherever it was needed.
Okay. How exactly did it come about that you were in Australia with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Towards the end of the London visit, Mr. Depp kindly said, thanks so much for looking after us. We really like you. Maybe if you're free next year and we can arrange it, we can make it happen. Perhaps you'll be able to come to Australia with us. I've got a film, Pirates 5. So I said, great, I'd love to. Obviously, I was freelance at the time, so it was going to be about 4 months' work. I think it was billed as, so I thought, yes, I.
La cara de Johnny de felicidad porque él ya no estaba contratado por nadie, estaba haciendo freelance, estaba siendo desempleado realmente, ¿no? Y le dijeron, oye, pues nos gustó mucho tu trabajo, posiblemente para Australia te querramos con nosotros. Y Johnny como de a huevo, lo ayudamos.
Wouldn't mind some of that. Thank you very much.
Y le agradece y Johnny le hace así de oh.
And where in Australia were you staying?
It was the Gold Coast. Yeah, it was all Brisbane area. Brisbane was the main airport, so it's about an hour's drive south of Brisbane.
And do you recall when you arrived?
I arrived on February the 4th. I know I flew on that day.
Okay. How did your job responsibilities in Australia compare to your job responsibilities in London?
Much the same, just on a bigger scale. The house was larger.
O sea, ¿cómo era tu trabajo cuando estabas en Australia que en Londres? Dice lo mismo, pero la casa de Australia era mucho más grande.
There was a bit more setup to do, but essentially the same oversight of the house, responsible for it during the whole gig.
And were you employed by Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard?
No.
Who were you employed by?
Essentially by Disney, the production company affiliated with Disney, who were making the movie. I think
Y otra vez lo contrató Disney.
the name was Herschel, was the production company.
And I think you said you arrived in Australia on February 4th, 2015? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. How about Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard? When did they arrive?
The setup for us was about a few weeks. I think they arrived towards the end of February 2015.
And between your arrival and their arrival, what had you been doing?
Just setting up the house. I lived on site. There was a guest house on site, 2 bedrooms.
Tiene una casa para los empleados. ¡Qué maravilla!
Single-story guest house that I stayed in for those first couple of weeks, setting up the house and just getting everything ready.
Dejé todo listo en unas semanas antes.
During that time. And
de
then
la
I
casa.
moved out to apartments, which we all had. I mean, a lot of the crew, the chef had an apartment. We all had apartments about a 30-minute drive south of the house.
Okay, y todos ellos tenían apartamentos para ir y venir 30 minutos de distancia de la casa.
Okay. And so we're talking about this house in Australia. So
Yes.
can you kind of describe that property to us?
Yes, it was
escribir
a
la
large
propiedad?
house on a few acres of land. A 3-story house, 5 bedrooms.
3 pisos, algunas hectáreas de terreno.
With 2 or 3 buildings within the grounds as well. A good-sized house, beautiful location.
Ah, tengo envidia.
How many entrances would you say it had?
Entrances, many. I mean, many on certainly on the lower ground level out to the garden. On the first or on the main floor level, there was many entrances. I mean, every room in that house had a balcony at least.
Cada cuarto de la casa tenía un balcón. Hazme el pinche favor.
Every room on the lower ground floor had a sliding door or a door out. The utility room, the garage,
Casa. Imagínate la casa.
gym, everything. Obviously the front door. Many. On the main level, the large glass sliding doors out to the pool area, which had a gazebo and steps down to the ground.
Okay, and once Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard arrived to stay at this house, was anybody else staying in the house?
Staying in the house, no.
Was anybody else staying on the grounds?
On the property, yes. I mean, there was a couple there, caretaking couple, Sean and his wife, Sandra, who worked for the owner of the house. They lived on site essentially all the time. They were there pretty much throughout. And their house was, whatever, a couple of 100 yards away from the main house. And yes, security were there also.
All right, sticking with the caretaker just briefly, about how long would you estimate it would take to walk from the main house to the caretaker's house?
Under 5 minutes. I mean, yeah, no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. And then you mentioned security. What was the security setup?
Security was set up by Jerry Judge. They were employed, they stayed in the grounds for the duration. They didn't come into the house. They had a little sort of shack round by the perimeter wall where they would start their patrols from.
Esta parte es como muy aburrida. Nada más está diciendo cómo era la casa, cómo había seguridad.
They write their reports and go back and stay in their shack.
And how many security guards would be on site at any particular time?
I think one in the day and one in the night, so they did.
Había uno en la seguridad, uno en la noche, uno en
But it was
la
24/7?
mañana.
Yes, definitely.
24/7.
Do you know whether those were local employees or were they regularly employed?
I believe they were Australian, yes.
Australianos. Ya, vayan las
Now,
preguntas
I think
chidas.
you said you were not on the property 24/7, right? You had an apartment elsewhere?
Correct, yeah.
No estabas
Same
24 horas en
hours
el
as I
apartamento.
did in London, essentially, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, not quite, but 7, 8 a.m. till evening, till everything was set up and I could leave.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity when you were in Australia to observe Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's interactions with each other?
Yes, of course.
Ok, ¿pudiste ver la interacción de Johnny con Amber en Australia? Sí.
And how would you describe them?
¿Y cómo la escribirías?
Initially very good, like
Igual que en London, al inicio muy buena.
in London, it seemed very pleasant towards each other.
Did you observe any arguments?
Yes.
¿Viste discusiones? La cara, güey. Sí, la neta, sí.
I several.
Varios.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes, a similar pattern, it seemed, to London arguments. One in particular was very similar to the second one in London.
Muchos de las discusiones se parecían mucho a las de Londres.
Started in the TV room, funny enough.
Y todos empezaban en el cuarto de la televisión. Güey, no se ponían de acuerdo con quién tenía el control remoto. Seguro eso es un pedo.
Loud voices, and Mr. Depp leaving the room, shutting the door, going to another room to play his guitar or to a bathroom, whatever. And Miss Heard closely following and opening the door or certainly rapping on the door. It seemed to continue.
¿Ven cómo Amber siempre persigue a Johnny? Él sale corriendo y ella va detrás de él a perseguirlo.
Give us an estimate about how many arguments you think you observed in this time frame, approximately.
Several. I mean, we were there for several months, so certainly many more than in London.
Muchos
Did you
argumentos.
observe any alcohol
Muchas
consumption
discusiones.
in Australia by either of them?
Yes, again, Ms. Heard, I was, again, part of my responsibilities was to provision the house and have everything set up for that. So I regularly brought red wine for Ms. Heard.
Como siempre, pues sí, muchísimo alcohol. La tomaba Miss Heard.
Which she consumed, the same amount as in London, I think.
2 botellas
What
al
amount
día.
is that?
Generally speaking, 1 or 2 bottles a day.
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp start any arguments with Ms. Heard?
No.
So hold on, objection.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, could you put your mic, there you go.
Leading, objection leading.
I'll sustain as leading if you want.
Okay, we can move on.
New question?
Do you remember anything about Friday, March 6th, 2015?
It was essentially a normal Friday, if you like, end of the week. Yay. Nothing extraordinary about that day.
Did you come into work that day?
Yes, yeah, I was there.
Okay. Do you recall about what time you would have left the house on that date?
I remember taking a photo of the beautiful sunset over the pool. The sun would set over the pool and the creek. I took a photo of that around.
¿Recuerdas a qué hora te fuiste? Sí, recuerdo que tomé una fotografía del sol cayendo, donde estaba la alberca y además estaba un pequeño riachuelo donde el sol... No mames.
Early evening, so 6:37. I would think I wouldn't have left much later than that.
Was Mr. Depp there when you left?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Depp was at the studio still.
Entonces, ¿y recuerdas haber visto a Depp? Y dice, no, estaba en el estudio.
On that day, I can't remember sort of seeing him to say goodbye. Have a good weekend.
How about Miss Heard? Do you recall if she was there when you left?
Yes, she was.
Did anything unusual happen that weekend?
Yeah, I would say something pretty unusual happened.
¿Pasó algo
Can you tell us
raro?
about that?
Yeah, I can.
Foundation.
All right, foundation, you want to leave?
Ok, se van al break. Ya está aquí importante todo el desmadre, el pinche chisme. Ahí está. Y adelantamos. Ahí está. Otra vez, neta, no entiendo mis pinches audífonos. ¿Qué pedo? Porque me caga esto. Lo siento, chicos, chicas, ahí está. Internet, no, tranquilo, tranquilo, internet, tranquilo. Ahí estamos bien, todo bien, todo bien. Ahí está, listo.
After you left the house that evening, when did you next see Miss Heard?
Sunday the 8th.
And where did you see Miss Heard?
At the house.
Dice, después de que te fuiste el viernes, ¿cuándo volviste a ver a Heard? Dice, el domingo.
What were your typical hours?
Monday to Friday from 7 or 8 a.m. till the end of play each evening, early evening usually.
Why were you at the house that Sunday?
¿Por qué estabas en la casa el domingo?
I was called to the house by one of Mr. Depp's assistants.
Porque me llamó uno de los asistentes de Depp.
And about what time did you arrive at the house?
Around 2 o'clock, 2:30.
Who was there when you arrived?
Debbie Lloyd was there. David Kipper was there. Amber Heard was there. Jerry Judge was there.
And I think by now probably everybody's familiar, but can you just very quickly say who those people are?
Sure. Debbie Lloyd was a nurse. David Kipper was Dr. David Kipper. Miss Heard was Miss Heard, and Jerry Judge was head of security.
And when you arrived at the house on Sunday, March 8th, 2015, what did you do?
I just parked up and went into the house.
And did you observe anything when you went into the house?
¿Se observaste algo cuando llegaste el domingo a la casa? Dice, estaba toda esta gente, ¿qué pasó?
Yeah, I mean, initially I walked into the front door. Initially I heard, rather than saw anything, I could hear pretty hysterical sobbing, crying, which sounded like Miss Heard to me. I heard Jerry Judge's voice. There's a few steps as you go up into the house, so you can't immediately see what's going on. But so I went up the steps. I could see then Miss Heard over on the right-hand side, over towards the TV room with Jerry Judge. David Kipper was in the kitchen area, which was pretty much directly ahead as you walk up those steps.
And were you able to visually see Miss Heard?
Yes.
¿Y sí viste a Miss Heard? Estaba el doctor, estaba el de seguridad, estaba Debbie la enfermera.
And you were able to hear her as well?
Absolutely.
¿Pudiste verla y escuchar a Heard, a Amber? Sí.
How would you describe her demeanor?
Hysterical.
¿Cómo la describirías? Histérica.
Probably the best way to describe it, crying a lot and,
Llorando mucho.
just crying uncontrollably, I think it's fair to say.
Estaba llorando incontrolablemente.
And how would you describe Jerry Judge's demeanor when he was speaking with her?
He was keeping her calm, saying, "It's all right, love, it will be all right." Jerry was good, like a big heart. Jerry, he's a good guy. He was calm. Jerry was always calm.
Y Jerry estaba calmado.
mostly.
And what did you do next?
I saw they were engaged across away there, so I went into the main kitchen area, which, as I said, was just directly ahead of those main steps, and spoke to David Kipper.
And following that conversation, what did you do?
Well, he told me that Mr. Depp had.
Objection hearsay.
All right.
Your Honor, it's, well, maybe approach.
Okay.
Ah. ¿Qué es cuando le cortó el dedo, no? Sí, pero todos ustedes son malos. Sí, pero yo soy muy chido. No, tú también. Ok, bye.
So you can answer the question. What did you do next?
Oh, ¿qué hiciste después?
So I spoke to David Kipper, who was in the kitchen area, seemingly rummaging through a bin. He said that Mr. Depp had sustained an injury to his finger.
Ya. Y dice, me enteré que Mr. Depp había tenido se había lastimado el dedo.
One of his fingers, and he was looking for the fingertip that
Y estaban buscando el pedazo de dedo.
it said it had been severed.
Yeah.
So I said, well, shall I help you? You know, as one would.
Y le pregunté, ¿quieres que ayude?
And he said, yeah, that would be a good idea. I left him in the kitchen. He said there was a lot more damage downstairs. So I went to, we split up. Left him in the kitchen. I went downstairs to search.
Y empecé a buscar el dedo de Johnny Depp.
At some point, was Mr. Depp's fingertip found?
Yes,
Who found it?
I did.
¿Quién encontró el dedo? Ve la cara del tipo cuando dice, ¿quién encontró el dedo? Yo. La cara de verga. Sí encontró el dedo el tipo.
And where did you find it?
Downstairs in the bar area, the
Lo encontré en el bar.
games room bar area.
So can you walk us through how you found it?
¿Cómo lo encontró?
Yes, so I walked down the stairs. There's a bit of damage down the steps. A big chunk had been taken out of the marble staircase. On my way down, remnants of what looked like a plant pot or something around it smashed.
O sea, bien, checa, iba bajando y vio que estaba roto el mármol, había una maceta rota.
Walking down into the bar, I could see the damage that Dr. Kipper had told me about. A broken ping pong table sort of collapsed onto
Una mesa de ping-pong rota. Se peleaban de verdad estos cabrones.
the floor, and lots of glass and broken glass and cans strewn around the bar area.
And where exactly was the finger in the bar area?
Directly below the bar, the bar was set up like a conventional bar that stuck out from a wall, and with a marble top. There's a big chunk out of that as well, like on the stair.
Ok, ¿y dónde encontraste el pedazo de dedo? Pues mire, es como un bar normal con el parte de mármol y estaba rota una parte del mármol y ahí es donde abajo justamente del mármol estaba el dedo.
Case. Directly at the end of the bar, there was a scrunched up piece of kitchen paper, if you like, tissue, with lots of blood around it, on it. So I thought that was probably a pretty good place to look. And it was within that scrunched up piece of paper on the tiled floor at the end of the bar, the base of the bar by one of the bar stools.
Ugh.
Was there any property damage around the finger?
Yes, a fair bit. On the floor around the area, there were puddles of what smelt like alcohol to me. Seemed like several drinking glasses, a couple of bottles. One was a
Había rotos vasos, rotos botellas.
Stolichnaya vodka bottle. And at the end of the bar, as I said, there was a big chunk out of the bar itself, the bar marble top. At the end
Y
of
el
that,
mármol estaba roto.
there was plaster damage right at the end of the bar on the wall. Behind the bar, smashed and cracked mirror. There's a blue mirror that stretched that whole span of behind the bar. Lots of cans again behind the bar on the floor. Broken window at the end of the bar, and more plastered work damage on the wall above the sink. It was sort of a kitchenette bar, if you like, as well.
You mentioned a bottle of vodka. Was the vodka bottle intact?
No,
¿Y la botella de vodka estaba intacta? Dice, no.
no, nothing was really intact. The top of it,
No había nada intacto.
the top of the bottle was like, it had a label on it, which is how I knew it was a Stolichnaya bottle. It has that sort of squiggly S, sort of yellow top. There was a large chunk of a bottle, which I guess was the rest of that, and lots of other broken glass around the area.
After you found the fingertip in the bar area, what did you do next?
Well, I gathered it up in that kitchen paper and sort of took it upstairs. I might have shouted up to David Kipper, I found it. I'm not sure, but I walked back upstairs to the kitchen and got a bag, you know, little plastic bag, put the fingertip in there, set it on top of some ice in this plastic kitchen container.
Dice, ¿qué hiciste con el dedo? Bueno, pues lo agarré, lo puse en una bolsita de plástico con hielitos.
And pretty much handed it over to David Kipper and Jerry
Y se lo di a
Judge at
Kipper.
the time, who were keen to get it to the hospital quickly to see if it could be reattached.
Do you recall about what time you found Mr. Depp's finger in the bar area?
It was about an hour after I got there, so it would have been around 3:30, I would think.
¿Cómo a qué hora encontraste el dedo? Como a las 3:30.
3:20, 3:30.
Now, you've told us a little bit about the state the house was in when you arrived.
Yes.
Can you generally describe for us, and maybe go level by level through the house, what damage you observed?
Sure. Do you want
¿Qué daños observaste en la casa?
me to start at the lower ground floor in that bar area? I mean, I've described a lot of that.
Sure, that's fine.
It was pretty extensive down there, all that broken glass, the blood. There are a lot of blood drips across that floor. It was a kind of cream-colored tiled floor in that whole games area. As I said, the ping pong table was
Había mucha sangre. O sea, ven esto
blood
está el lugar.
drips across the floor and around the bar. And the damage on the walls, as I said, the plaster work at the end of the bar, behind the bar, and the chunk out of the marble top. So on the ground, that was the predominant damage in that area, on that level. On the next floor, on the main floor where David Kipper was, in the kitchen itself, again, a few broken glasses and cans on the floor, soda cans behind the kitchen island, the chef's kitchen island, liquid puddles. There was a sitting room with a couch on, a cream-coloured couch, which had a fair amount of blood drips on the cushions, and that was obvious. The TV, which was directly in front of that wall-mounted TV, was cracked with, it seemed like remnants of a coffee cup embedded in some of it, and the rest was below, looked like coffee splattered behind and underneath.
Ahora estoy escribiendo la escena del crimen. Voy a ver si puedo hacer más rápido esto.
Through there, we'd set up an art studio.
Okay, ya me dio flojera.
So a lot of the art materials from that, paintbrushes, paint, various art materials were on the floor. A lot of paint on the floor. Blood drips throughout that area as well, especially over it was a vast sort of wooden parquet floor. There was a lot of oil paint and blood drips up to the staircase. In one of the bedrooms, there were two bedrooms off of the main kitchen area. One of those bedrooms had blood drips on the duvet, and a lamp had seemingly been broken. The shade was removed. There were a couple of lampshades in the art studio area on the floor. That was about the extent of the damage. Going upstairs to the next level, there was a few blood smears on the wall and on the drips of the stairs going up. Again, a cream-coloured carpet, which is not ideal. And so that's the top floor was the master bedroom, master suite floor, and two bedrooms also up there. Outside the master bedroom, there was damage to the plaster work on a pillar.
O sea,
outside.
literal, llenaron de sangre toda la casa.
Blood drips into the master bedroom, across the master bedroom floor. Going into the master bathroom, there was a his and her sinks and a large mirror above each of the sinks that had writing on each of them. Again, one of the bedrooms, or both of the bedrooms, I think had blood on the duvet covers, and another lamp was broken. Mr. Depp's guitar was in one of those
¿Qué es un duvet?
bedrooms, a bloodstained guitar. His iPad was standing up on one of the beds.
La guitarra llena de sangre, qué horror.
In one of those bedrooms. That's about the extent of it.
That's the damage
On each level, yeah.
Whose job was it to clean all that up?
That was mine.
¿De quién era el trabajo de limpiar eso? Dice, es mi trabajo. Madres, pobre tipo.
That was mine.
La cara de Johnny, por favor. Ve la cara de Johnny. Culero, ve la cara de Johnny.
My responsibility. The house was essentially my responsibility.
O sea, esa risita de Johnny como de, I'm sorry.
So you were
¿tú ves una colcha? Un cobertor ligero. Oh, muchas gracias. Información que no tenía ni en mi cabeza.
Were you familiar with the damage generally throughout the house?
I got a pretty good idea as I walked around and saw it all, yes.
Did you observe any damaged phones?
No.
Did you observe any damage to a wall where a phone might have been ripped off the wall?
No.
Bleeding. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe the next one.
¿Viste algún teléfono que hayan arrancado? Dice, no.
Was there any artwork in this house?
¿Había arte en la casa?
The owners had left their art in the house, yes. Mr. Depp and Miss Heard had done some artwork themselves, yes. But, yes, there was some that came with the house, if you like.
Focusing just on the artwork that came with the house, did you observe any damage to any of that?
No, nothing that I needed to repair or replace, certainly not. Thank goodness.
Dice, no tuve que arreglar nada de los cuadros.
Is there any other damage that comes to mind?
Just a lot of blood, a lot of repairs. The floor, as I said, was quite heavily with blood and paint. Yeah.
And in terms of bodily fluids, it was just blood that you observed, no urine or anything else?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll sustain the strike the answer from the record.
No other damage. Does any other damage come to mind?
No.
Can we take a look at Defendants Exhibit 375, which I believe is already in evidence? And can we publish this to the jury?
Okay.
Mr. King, are you familiar with the image that's on the screen in front of you?
Yes, that's one of the mirrors I was telling you about in the master bathroom.
And so, were you involved in cleaning any of this up?
I cleaned both of those mirrors at some point that evening, that night. Yes.
Dice, él limpió los espejos. ¿Se acuerdan que los espejos Johnny había escrito unas cosas?
Were you able to tell what was used, or what substance what sort of the ink is that's used on
¿Con qué se escribió sobre estos espejos?
on the black writing there?
That was the same oil paint that was on the floor, on the parquet floor downstairs and various other places. It was the same oil paint.
La pintura de óleo.
All right, how about the red writing that says, call Carly Simon, she said it better, babe. Were you able to tell what was used to make that writing?
Lipstick, I believe.
Foundation.
Oh.
Objection foundation.
He's testified that he was cleaning it up.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Go ahead.
It certainly seemed like lipstick to me.
Sí,
red
es un
lipstick.
lápiz
It was
labial
quite
para
waxy.
pintar.
I remember taking that off. It seemed like lipstick.
Okay, we can take that down. Mr. King, about how long were you at the house on that Sunday?
Quite a long time. It actually went into the early hours of Monday morning, so at least I got there around 2 in the afternoon of Sunday. I don't think I left there until 2 or 3 o'clock the next morning of the night.
Wow.
Over the course of the time that you were there that day, did you have any interactions with Miss Heard?
Yes, I certainly did.
Can you describe those for us, please?
Yes, not too much initially. She was very, as I said, quite hysterical and crying a lot, and Jerry Judge was taking care of her, keeping her calm. Later in the evening, it was suggested that Miss Heard go to a local hotel, to leave the house, go to a local hotel, which then became a suggestion that she go back to LA. And that's, I think, when I started interacting in terms of, at some point, I volunteered to travel with her to LA.
How did Miss Heard respond to the suggestion that she leave for Los Angeles?
She was resistant to both of those suggestions, very resistant.
Ella se resistió a irse de la casa a un hotel o a Los Ángeles y si al final yo la acompañé.
Really didn't want to go and said, I can't leave. You know, it'll be the end if I leave. Those sorts
Dice, no me puedo ir porque si me voy esto se va a acabar.
of things. And so it was just, these went over a few hours. There was negotiations, if you like, and eventually Ms. Heard agreed that I would fly with her.
And did you, in fact, fly with her?
I did, on Monday the 9th.
Okay.
Y el lunes se fue.
Sticking with Sunday, when you were interacting with her on that Sunday, how close were you to her?
Very close, you know, like very close, in front of her.
And do you recall observing any injuries on Miss Heard?
No, none whatsoever.
¿Viste algún tipo de Amber lastimada? Dice, no, nada.
Did you notice anything unusual about her physically at all?
No, I mean, she's obviously crying a lot. She had red eyes, and but no, otherwise no.
Okay. So what happened the following day, that Monday, March 9th, I guess it would be, 2015?
Right, so, I mean, it was eventually agreed that I would fly with Miss Heard, so I I had to at some point go back to my apartment, drive to my apartment to pick up my passport, which, funnily enough, I hadn't brought with me, and some clothes, a bag to take. So I think I left the house early hours, as I said, 2, 3, may have been a bit later, a.m. I drove back to my apartment, which was 30 minutes drive south.
Voy a poner más rápido esto
Picked up
porque ya me
those
estoy
things.
aburriendo.
I mean, I didn't know how long I was going to go for, but I knew I was traveling. So passport, quick shower, pick up a bag of clothes, and I drove back up to the house. I don't recall exactly what time I arrived there, but I know we had to leave. All the arrangements were being made by the travel agent, and Jerry Judge was liaising with them to make the flight arrangements.
Hasta ahorita está
I believe it was
aburrido.
going mid to late morning. So I think we had to leave the house around 7 or 8 a.m. that morning, Monday the 9th.
And did you travel to the airport with Ms. Heard?
Yes, we were driven.
How would you describe her demeanor that morning?
Calmed down a fair bit, which is mostly on the phone, to be honest, for pretty much the whole of that car journey. To various people, one of which I believe was Mr. Depp.
Do you recall her saying anything on the ride to the airport about what had happened the night prior?
Nothing really mentioned in that as way of an explanation, no.
What happened when you got to the airport, if anything?
We were running a bit late, but I remember that. Luckily, we were traveling first class, so the driver knew to...
Dice, adelántalo hasta que lo interrogue el otro abogado. A ver, vamos a ver. Aquí está el otro abogado.
And when did you first notice those?
No, acá.
I wouldn't generally go. In fact, I don't think I went out with him at all in Australia.
And you didn't go out with Mr. Depp at all when he was in Australia, correct?
Aquí está. Ok. ¿Quieren ir a la parte donde el pendejo se objeta a sí mismo, va?
Call it. I saw him on set once or twice, yeah.
So you don't know what Mr. Depp was doing in Australia
Dice, no sabías lo que estaba haciendo Depp en Australia.
unless you saw him at the house or on set, is that right?
I saw him at the house, yes, every day.
But you don't know.
Lo bueno es que el que sigue nada más vamos a ver a la psicóloga, porque después ya es
What Mr. Depp was doing when he left the house, correct?
Generally going to work on Pirates of the Caribbean 5 filming, yes.
Were you with him?
No, but security with him, and I had to liaise with him for when he would go and when he would come back for the driver, etc.
But you weren't there. You weren't there when Mr. Depp left the house, correct?
Generally, I didn't leave the house with Mr. Depp on those days, no.
And I just want to be clear. There were two kind of periods that Mr. Depp was in Australia in 2015, right?
Sorry, say again.
Mr. Depp was in Australia from sometime in February 2015 until about March 8th, March 9th, when he injured his finger. Is that right?
Nuevamente ya me pasé la parte de donde se auto objeta el mismo abogado.
Correct, yeah.
And then Mr. Depp left Australia too, correct?
At some point, he flew to LA, yes.
And then Mr. Depp returned to Australia on April 21st, right?
Ahí viene apenas,
Okay,
ok.
that sounds about that time. I don't know the specific date. I don't recall.
Ahorita me
Filming of
escucho.
Pirates of the Caribbean 5 continued filming on April 21st, right?
Objection.
That-
Foundation speculation.
I didn't get... Oh, sorry.
His objection.
You recall testifying to that in the UK?
I'll open
Which
the
bit,
objection
sorry?
if you can answer it.
That the filming of Pirates of the Caribbean 5 continued filming on April 21st, 2015.
I wasn't involved in the filming schedule. I didn't know when it resumed, to be honest. I knew Mr. Depp would come back to resume filming, for sure.
You didn't live with Mr. Depp in his house in Australia, correct?
Live with? No, I wasn't resident there.
Now, when you arrived at the house, you saw a significant amount of damage, correct?
Yes, through the course of, after I arrived, yeah.
Okay. And the scene was chaos, correct?
Chaos, I mean, there was a fair amount of damage.
The house was wrecked,
There was a lot of damage in the house, yes.
and the house was not in a good state, correct?
Asked and
There
answered.
was a lot of damage throughout the
You
house.
gotta object first, and then you have your objection.
Yeah.
Mr. Winters.
Objection.
And it helps. Okay. I'll rule the objection. Go ahead. Next question.
And you said there was glass on the floor, correct?
In a few areas, mainly predominantly in the bar, yes. Down in the lower ground floor, correct.
Okay, and there was blood on the walls, correct?
In various places, blood on the floor, blood on the walls.
And there was blood on the walls throughout the 3 stories of the house, isn't that right?
No, I wouldn't say that was the extent of it. There were smears up the staircase going up to the master from the main level. There were smears and drips on the carpet.
So there were smears from the master level up to the bedroom area? I mean, from the main level up to the bedroom area, is that right?
Up to the 3rd floor, yes.
Like someone had walked from the main floor up to the bedroom floor, correct?
There was blood going up the steps, up on the staircase, and some on the walls, smears where you might have done that.
As if someone was walking from the main level up to the master bedroom, correct? Is that what the blood was like?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
La cara de Johnny Depp es como de este güey, no sabe ni qué preguntar.
Or down. I mean,
Up or
there was
down, but
blood
from the
on
main
that
level to
staircase.
from the main level to the 3rd floor, correct?
Correct, yes.
And you said the sofas were damaged, is that right?
one sofa in that sitting room, which was just off the kitchen, was quite an open plan thing. So off that, there was a sofa with a large TV on a wall-mounted TV in front of that sofa.
And the sofa was on the main level, correct?
Correct, just by the main kitchen, exactly.
And where the sofa was damaged, was that with what?
Blood.
Blood. Okay. And the lights were damaged?
Some lamps, a couple of lamps, yes.
And there were bottles of alcohol in and out of the fridge, correct?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Did you see bottles of alcohol in and out of the fridge?
Yes, I mean, there was, I don't completely
La cara de Johnny, ¿qué acaba de preguntar?
understand what you mean.
You saw that, correct?
There was alcohol bottled, yes. There was, in the fridge, I mean, there would have been a bottle of wine, I don't know.
And the floors were ruined, correct?
Ruined, I mean, there was a lot of damage on the floor, down in the bar area, and the staircase, and on the main floor area, on the wooden parquet floor, correct.
And the floors were going to have to be sanded, correct?
I eventually got them sanded, yes.
And it took, you were there, I think you testified, it took you about 12 to 13 hours in the house cleaning up, correct?
Correct.
And you said that there was, is it your testimony that you didn't see any of the paintings damaged?
The existing paintings from the owners from the house, no, none of them were damaged.
You didn't see any paintings with a painting of a penis drawn on it?
I did not, and thankfully that was something I didn't.
Güey, este comentario me mama. El lenguaje corporal del doctor me dice que ya está mamado.
have to replace.
Do you know if anyone else
any
saw that?
painting.
Objection, speculation.
I mean, I would have seen it.
There's objection.
Oh,
You
I'm
just
so
need to
sorry.
stop. That's all
I'm
right.
sorry.
All right. If you stand, we can see you better.
Está muy nervioso el mayordomo.
Can you do that?
Understood.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. And you said that Jerry Judge was at the house, correct?
Correct.
And he's the head of Mr. Depp's security, correct?
Correct.
And Dr. Kipper was at the house?
Yes, he was.
And Debbie Lloyd was at the house as well, correct?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Now, you understood that Mr. Judge saw scratches on Ms. Hurd on March 8th, correct?
Objection, hearsay, speculation, foundation.
All right. I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Did you have, the cleaning lady was going to be coming to the house, correct?
The housekeeper?
Yes, the housekeeper.
Adele, the resident housekeeper. Yes, she was going to be. I mean, yes, she was employed through the week. again.
Mamado en Colombia quiere decir muy cansado. Pensé que mamado de ejercicio. Dije, ¿qué pedo? Oiga, yo ya no lo voy a seguir. Ya me está aburriendo hasta el culo esto. Además, así nos da tiempo. Digo, ahorita ya no. Pero nos da tiempo de ver entonces la siguiente sesión, que va a ser ya con la psicóloga. Ese sí me interesa cabrón, justamente. Porque esto, digo, la verdad es que nada más quieren hacer ver como que... No tengo ni puta idea qué quieren hacer ver, honestamente. Yo ya estoy cansado también. Ya son 2 horas y media de que estamos haciendo esto. No se olviden de dar like. Eso es bien, bien importante. Déjenme ver. La siguiente semana, el lunes es mi cumpleaños de la siguiente semana. Espérense, ¿qué día es hoy? Jueves. El lunes es mi cumpleaños. 2 de mayo. 2 de mayo es mi cumpleaños. Dice, doctor, no vio el momento épico. No, ya estoy hasta el culo. Ya me duele el culo. O díganme en qué, así de, aquí son 8 horas. ¿En qué número de esas 8 horas está? Y ahorita lo ponemos. Pónganse a investigar en lo que yo les sigo dando mis anuncios. El miércoles nos vamos a aventar de 4 desde las 5. Nos vamos a aventar 3 horas. El miércoles de 5 a 8, miércoles 4 de mayo, seguimos con las reacciones. Pero aquí ya lo que voy a hacer es buscar lo de la psicóloga. Es más, déjenme, voy a decirle a mi querida, vamos a decirle a Macarena, ella me ha ayudado mucho con esto. Vamos a mandar un mensaje a Macarena a todos nosotros en este momento. Así de, hola Macarena, estamos en vivo contigo y te estamos pidiendo todos los salamandras, absolutamente todos y todas las salamandras, te estamos pidiendo que por favor agarres los mejores momentos, ya Johnny Depp ya no está, agarra los mejores momentos de la psicóloga, dinos el de la psicóloga, en qué momentos está la psicóloga hablando cosas interesantes, y el de hoy también estuvo importante, y a lo mejor hasta aparece la Amber Heard, no sabemos. Entonces estamos aquí en vivo todos y todas esperando que tú, Macarena, te encargues de eso. Entonces te queremos mucho. El miércoles 4, vamos a ver la reacción. Entonces tienes que estar muy pendiente, mi vida. Listo. El juicio estuvo muy fuerte. El empleado relató desagradable experiencia de la caca. Pero ¿qué son 10 minutos, ¿sabes? No tenemos que ver todo el pinche desmadre. Pero ya pusimos a Macarena que lo viera, pobre. La verdad es que qué culero soy. Pero bueno, pues me quiere y yo la quiero. Entonces así funciona esto. ¿El de hoy estuvo muy intenso? Va. Sí, a ver, yo quiero ver a Johnny y yo quiero ver a Amber. Esos son los que realmente me interesan. Ver a este mayordomo hablando de... Tengo envidia. O sea, honestamente. 244-31. 240, ¿qué? ¿Qué es 244-31? Chicos, chicas, ¿de qué están hablando? ¿Lo de la caca es del 244-31? No, me refiero al de hoy, a este que estamos viendo. Este. Donde el tipo el abogado se auto-objeta. ¿Qué nivel de problema mental debes de tener para eso, sabes? Dice, solo para ver la épica metida de pata del abogado para irme a mi curso. No, pues no sé dónde está. La verdad no sé dónde está esa parte. Ah, ¿qué pasó con mi cara? ¿Dónde está? Aquí está. No importa. Oigan, mis amores, el miércoles 4 le seguimos, ahora sí ya con puntos más importantes. 244-31 épico. ¿De qué? ¿De qué es el 244-31? El tiempo del abogado, yo aquí no tengo 244, aquí tengo 7 horas, literal. 244-31 autoobjeción. Ya sé qué voy a hacer. Denme un segundo. Vamos a buscar Amber Lawyer, espérate, escribí mal lawyer. Objection. Aquí está, ya la encontré. Aquí. Nada más porque los quiero, chingados. Nada más porque los quiero. Aquí está. De verdad, nada más porque los quiero. Chequen. Ahí va.
With Debbie Lloyd when you're in the house, correct?
Yes.
¿Por qué le tiembla la voz a este güey? Espérame, déjame ponerlo normal.
Briefly.
Okay.
Ahí va.
And isn't it true that in the entire time you were there, you were not informed as to what caused damage to Mr. Depp's finger on March 8th?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm asking what he wasn't told.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You didn't know what could cause damage to Mr. Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Dr. Kipper had told me he'd sustained an injury on one of his fingers.
Objection, hearsay.
Wait, you had... What's the question?
Okay.
Y la jueza, you asked the question. Ay, no mames. Va de nuevo.
Injury on one of his fingers.
Dice, entonces el doctor Kipper te dijo cómo había sufrido uno el daño a su propio dedo.
Objection, hearsay.
Espérate.
You didn't know what could cause damage to Mr.
Tú no sabías lo que le pudo haber causado, ¿no?
Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Cuando estabas ahí.
Dr. Kipper had told me
Dr. Kipper me dijo
he'd sustained an injury on
que sufrió un daño al dedo.
one of his fingers.
Objection, hearsay.
Y el abogado dice, no, objeción, eso es un rumor. Y la jueza.
Wait, you asked the question.
Okay.
But you asked the question. Le dice la jueza, pero tú hiciste la pregunta, estúpido. No mames. Épico. Ok. Se ríe, ¿verdad? Pensé, hay una parte donde se ríe Johnny Depp. Vamos a ponerla. Espérate. No, aquí no está. Aquí no aparece Johnny Depp cuando se ríe. Lo siento. No es en este. Bueno, ya, Salamandas. El 2 de mayo, mi cumpleaños, cumplo 41 años, de verdad. Ha sido un gusto estar con ustedes. Ya el 2 de mayo tenemos un Pregúntame en Zoom. El martes tenemos otro Pregúntame en Zoom. Y el martes podríamos hacer... Sí, no. El miércoles hacemos una reacción, así chingona. Y el jueves no va a haber nada porque voy a seguir mi tatuaje del brazo completo. Ya terminé mi hombro. Ahorita no les voy a mostrar porque todavía no está terminado todo. Pero bueno, tengo ya esta parte del tatuaje. Voy a seguir el jueves esta parte. Luego me voy a esta parte y luego toda la parte de adentro. Que madre santa de Dios, cómo duelen los tatuajes. La verdad. Pero si quieren apoyarme con mi cumpleaños, ustedes ya saben, pongan ahí super like, super thanks, vuélvanse miembros del canal, eso me super mama. Y oigan, pues gracias por aguantarse 2 horas y media hoy conmigo. De verdad, yo disfruto mucho estar con ustedes, la paso muy, muy bien. Qué divertido es ver este tipo de cosas. Qué padre que de pronto ya Internet nos tiene estas cosas de aquí está el momento épico donde te pareces a mentiroso de Jim Carrey. Pero bueno, nos vemos el lunes para Pregúntame en Zoom. Ahora sí vamos a tener Pregúntame en Zoom en mi cumpleaños. Va a haber Pregúntame en Zoom en mi cumpleaños. Ese es el nivel de ¿cómo dirían? De cuánto los quiero. De compromiso con ustedes. De amorts con T y Z. Amorts. Oigan, vamos a hacer, esto sí quiero hacerlo, rapidísimo. Ayúdenme a hacer vamos a hacer un hermoso, una historia de Instagram con ustedes. ¿Les late? Oigan, salamandas, estamos aquí y más o menos somos 3,000 personas en esta historia de Instagram. Si no me siguen en Instagram, es Adrián Salama, todos están en Instagram, viendo el juicio de Johnny Depp. El miércoles 4, vamos a seguirlo. Saluden a la cámara. Hola, Instagram. Miércoles 4 hacemos reacciones de la psicóloga, el tipo que se encontró el pedazo de popó de Amber Heard en la cama y el resto. Cuídense mucho, pasen increíble y nos vemos. Ahí está. Fueron parte de un momento épico. Así, miren, aquí está y enviar. Ahí está, compartir. Listo. Ay, Dios. Ay, Marcelita, qué cosas pones en Instagram, Dios mío. Les mando un beso enorme, y les quiero un montón. Gracias por estar conmigo, gracias por pasarla tan bonito y nos vemos el miércoles. Bueno, nos vemos el lunes para Pregúntame en Zoom, para mi cumpleaños. Espero que estén casi todas y todos. Y si no, los veo el miércoles para seguir con las reacciones de este hombre, este juicio que es juicio épico. Pásenla increíble, salamandras, y les amo.